Welcome in, everybody, into my latest live broadcast. Today is Tuesday, December the 10th, 2019. Just 15 days until the big day. All right, guys, couple of things. Video looks a little bright today. That's all right, we'll keep it bright. It's fine. Feel like a bright day. First of all, hello, welcome in. Hopefully everybody can see and hear me okay. John Peck says hello from a cold and wet UK. You mean just the UK then. El Hash Tepesh, Stealth Mode, David Griswold, Troll McTrollington, Sharon Idle, Joseph Neal, Francois Gabald, Tony Wallow. Welcome in, everybody. Sorry, I'm just seeing the names I'm not going through everybody because I got a lot to get through. So, first, I have some thank yous. Number one, for today's build, where you see the parts behind me, you see I've got the overhead camera out. This is being built for my partner in crime, Mike Smith, out in Pennsylvania. Mike and I do the Tech Vets podcast, and I built Mike's original, the computer he's using now. I built that back in March of 2015, and you can see that original build video down in the video notes below this video. There are links to things I'm going to be talking about, including that original video from 4 years ago, nearly 5 years ago, because we're almost to March again. And we had a pretty tight budget to work with, as I recall, so I wasn't able to build Mike, what I really wanted to build him. And at the same time, Mike's needs were not as demanding in 2015 with regards to media production as they are today. So I was talking with Mike, and he mentioned that I tend to be a bit conservative. I know some of you think you're conservative. Yeah, I tend to not pick the most expensive thing. I try to find sort of the higher end of the middle. And Mike was getting a little upset with me. He's like, I don't want the high end of the middle. I want the best. He goes, I don't want to do this again for a long time. Just give me the best. Now, I was kind of shocked because before as I recall, we had sort of a tight budget. And now Mike is saying, I realize the value and the importance that this is going to play in my working life and how much I rely on it. And I don't want to go conservative of all. I want to go over the top. I'm a computer guy. I should have the best. So I said, okay, getting the best isn't necessarily logical with regards to buying let me rephrase. Buying the most expensive thing does not always relate to the best. So I upgraded several of the components. He needs a lot of USB ports. He wants a lot of RAM. And so that's what we're going to be starting with today. So I just want to say thank you to Mike for, trusting me in this and letting me build the next, the son of Frankenstein. He's got Frankenstein now. This will be the son of Frankenstein. This is going to be the beast. You'll see here we've got a Core i9 9900K. We're going to be cooling it with a Mugen 5. We've got a 970 Pro Plus 1 terabyte super fast drive. 64 gigs of RAM in this box right here. It's all going to go into a Z390 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi. Now, he doesn't want the Wi-Fi, but believe it or not, this was cheaper for the Wi-Fi version. It was on sale. We're going to power it with an RM750X modular power supply from Corsair. Now, Mike has a DVD drive and a couple of hard drives and I think an SSD in his current rig that he's going to move over along with his GPU himself when he receives the computer. And the computer I originally sold him was in I think it was an NZXT Phantom 410. And one of the things I didn't like about that case, Mike also didn't like about it, and that was the top of it here isn't flat. It kind of looks like a house. And so you can't set anything on it. It falls off. So Mike tells me he has taken the top off. And so the computer sits partially dismantled because he needs to set things on top there that he's working on. And he hates that case, hates it. So we're not going to make that mistake twice. Mike also still needs to put DVD drive in, so he doesn't want one of the modern cases that doesn't have any ports on the front or bays on the front. So that's why these parts have been selected to meet Mike's needs. Now I need to give a couple other shouts out of thanks. If you look behind me, in that box right over there is a brand new Canon XF400. Now, people ask me what I shoot with these videos, and the camera I'm speaking to you on is a Canon XF400. This camera, well, when it came out, it was $3,000. It's down to $2,500 now, and I ended up financing it to get a second one. Documentation. Oh. I just want to show you, this is not an empty box. This is not a stunt. I haven't had time to take it out of the box yet, but everything is in there, as you can see. And no, you can't eat that box, Lyle. Lyle. No, not this one. Sorry, buddy. You hungry for a box today? You're going to get your fill in a little bit. Sorry, the dog is sometimes cat-like. He likes boxes. Anyway, funny thing happened. I mentioned I was going to get one of these cameras, and I was trying to figure out how to afford it. And I thought, you know what, I'll just finance it. And I wanted to order it before December 5th because B&H Photo was going to start charging sales tax. And that's about $250 worth of sales tax on that. So I put it on, I filled out a credit form, and I thought, you know, I'll just pay $500 a month for 5 months, and it'll pay for it, you know, 0% interest for 12 months. Anyway, well, no sooner than that happened than I got two very generous contributions that paid for that camera. And one of them comes from Peter Laycock, who watches me in Great Britain. And the other comes from a gentleman that's been here in the chat numerous times, DHR Street Speed. Now, DHR Street Speed is a fairly new name to the channel, and I want to just take a moment to thank him personally for his generous contribution. And even more interesting is his YouTube channel. He is apparently a gentleman who had started his own business, sold it, and now enjoys having numerous cars and racing them and playing. And his YouTube channel is about the cars, but it's also about how did he get to be where he is? Can you make your own business and sell it like he did? And he answers these questions. He's only got about 15,000 subscribers. If that interests you, and it should, the link to his channel is down below the video notes, and I encourage you to subscribe to him and support him. He's a great supporter of the community. And now I wish I'd ordered 2 cameras because I wanted a total of 3. But everything's great. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I can't thank everybody for their contributions enough. But those 2 gentlemen were just over and above. Like, I'm just sort of speechless about it. So as you start seeing the additional camera in the future when I get it unboxed and set up. In fact, I'll do an unboxing and review of it when I have some time. But that's all thanks to those 2 gentlemen. Okay. Now, those aren't the only people who contributed. Those were just very generous. Getting back to some contributions to the channel, you know, I like to acknowledge everybody who sends anything, really. So a couple of days ago, I got a little box in the mail. And in here is an Amazon gift card. And Amazon gift cards are awesome because I use a lot of Amazon. And it says, hey, Carrie, I'm sure you can find use for this. And again, thank you for the amazing online community we have to enjoy. That's from Luke Greenia. And you'll see Luke in the chat room. I don't know if he's in there today. Oh, there's DHR Street Speed in the chat. Hey, David. Good to see you, David. And my thanks to Luke. Luke has contributed. You know, he sent stuff like maple popcorn and maple syrup from Vermont. And this was a very nice contribution, so thank you. Then I got this package in the mail that has 3 solid-state drives. They're 240 gig drives. Now, you know we give away computers to disabled veterans, and I've been swapping out mechanical drives for SSDs in these giveaways. And so this person said, I have 3 SSDs to send you for future giveaways. Now, I need to tell you, I think I have about 24 of these. I don't need any more. We've got a lot of these to go through. But I do want to say thank you for sending them. They will get used eventually. It's not like they're going to go bad. Oh, there's $10 in here. It says, Carrie, thank you for the great videos and teaching you give us. This letter was included with the solid state drives. You've inspired me to build computers again, something I've not done for about 10 years. Enclosed, you'll find 3 new 240 gig solid state drives for the Veterans giveaway and a $10 donation to support the channel or buy some Coca-Cola. Thanks again for everything you do. This comes from Wayne Lawrence in Oregon. So Wayne, thank you again for your support and for supporting the veteran giveaways. We'll get back to those after the holidays. We don't want to add to the shipping hassles right now. And they will get used for that purpose. Then I received this, which I should probably just, you see I've got the overhead camera out. Let me switch to the overhead because this is a big box and it might be easier for you to see it. Let's see, I'll turn that one on. Oh, I suppose I have to turn the camera on first. Bear with me, let me turn the camera on. There we go, turning on. There it is. So I don't know who sent this. This, first of all, these cameras that I buy, they take 2 memory cards. And they've got to be fast. They've got to be U3. I think these are U3. Anyway, well, this one's not quite as, yeah. So this is 170 megabytes a second. So these memory cards, this is 256 gig. Each camera takes 2 of these, and these run about $60 to $70 a piece. So whoever sent this picked the right one, which is fantastic, and it goes perfect timing with the new camera. And then they also sent this Neewer LED photography light, which is a huge LED light that is dimmable and controllable, which I desperately need, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to wire this stuff in the kitchen here without tripping over everything. But these were both items on the production equipment wanted list that I have in the video notes below. If you want to contribute other ways, there's certainly that. And then today in the mail, there's another YouTube channel I really like called Buon Appetiti. And this is an 80-plus-year-old Italian grandmother who makes real Italian food from scratch. Like, you don't get any more authentic than, and I'm a big fan of authenticity. And she's got that thick Italian accent, and sometimes she can't find the English word she's looking for, and I absolutely love this lady. And her name is Gina. And if you guys want to watch and see how to make real, authentic, old-school Italian food, she shows you. She sent me a Christmas card, which is wonderful. You guys, I don't know if you know, I had an old Sony wireless, well, not old. I had a Sony wireless microphone before I switched over to Sennheiser, and that Sony wireless microphone is about $600, and I had no use for it. And I noticed Mama Gina, her audio was echoey, and I sent her the microphone, and she's using it in her videos now. And then she sent me some of her baked goods as a thank you, and she gave me a shout out in one of her videos, and I was absolutely tickled. So today I got a Christmas card from her. It says, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And then I open it up, and it says, Carrie, the best of wishes, God bless, health and happiness, your friend Gina. How cool is that? So if you guys love Italian food and you want to learn how to make it the way old school, classic, authentic Italian from Italy, how they do it, as far as I know, she's the most authentic, the most real on YouTube, and I absolutely love her. Love her. Okay, so with all that out of the way, again, my thanks to everybody who has contributed. It's because of you, it takes the pressure off of me to find sponsors, is ultimately what it amounts to. A sponsor, and just to give you some perspective, with a sponsor, it's not uncommon for, depending on the size of the YouTube channel, to get 5 digits in sponsor money. So by 5 digits, I mean like, $10,000, $20,000. A lot of it has to do with the size of the channel. And the contributions that come in, the $5 here and $10 there, all of that chips away at me not having to shill a product. Now, I end up shilling products that I use anyway, so what's the harm in collecting a little money? Well, my concern is I'm afraid it sort of leaves my integrity a bit questionable when I start taking money for it. Not that I'm above it. I mean, look, if it's a product I use anyway, I don't care if you think I'm a shill. However, if I can avoid that entire scenario by having the community support the channel, that's my first preference. And it's because of the generosity, especially lately for many of you, that right now I don't have that concern about that I had last month with regards to YouTube revenues being what they are. So thank you for all that. And while we're on that subject, there's been a few contributions coming in during the super chat that I want to give some shouts out to right now, and then we'll get started on the build with all this out of the way. So thank you for bearing with me as we go through sort of the monologue. David Griswold has contributed $10. He says, hey, here's a small donation. Thanks for all you do. Chester Hughes has contributed $2. Thomas Robinson has contributed £1.99. Michael Collis has contributed £4.99. He says, I'm sorry I haven't been around for a while. Things have not been too good lately. Sorry to hear that, Michael, but hopefully things will get better. Madi Yoel has contributed $5. Thank you, Madi. We've got a build coming up from Madi probably after the first of the year. Mervyn Jordan has contributed $5. He says, I just found your channel. You're one of the best in the business. Thanks for all that you do for the world. Well, thank you. Ronald Hambrick has contributed $2, and Lee Bigley has contributed $2. Right on. Well, thanks to all of you very much for, again, supporting the channel so I don't have to go to an outside vendor with a handout going, come on, we'll put your name back here, or we'll, you know. I mean, that day may be coming, but so far, right now, as I speak to you today, I'm a very happy guy. I don't have the stress I had. Again, last month, things were really stressed out. So John Peck has contributed £2. He says, keep up the good work. And thank you, John. All right. Now, that being said, I have another build I have to do after this, and it's going to be all RGB and liquid cooler. It's exactly the opposite of what I normally do. And I'm doing that because I have a customer who specifically wants it. Now, I have advised the customer that the RGB is nonsense, that the liquid cooler is unnecessary. They don't care. They're opening their wallet and they're paying for it. So I don't charge the customer any differently. It's just that the parts for that cost more. And it's a little more work for me with regards to getting everything all synced up. And it's just, in my opinion, it's just stupid. However, it's not my job to tell the customer what they want. I can advise the customer and explain why. Customer hears me, says, I hear you. It's not what I want. This is what I want. I say, okay, I'll build it. So that'll be coming up after this build. Depending on how fast this goes, either the end of the week or beginning of next week will be the next build. A couple other contributions just came in. So again, quick shouts out. That'll be Jason Baum has contributed $4.99. He says, I run the same motherboard and RAM in my secondary system. John Craig has contributed £5. Thanks for your great videos, he says. I'm looking forward to this one in particular. Thank you, John, and for all your contributions. I think John sent, I think, some SSDs a while back. Wasn't it you, John, for the veterans giveaways? Those are all sitting in a box back in my office, so we'll get to those. Chris's Tech channel has contributed $2. He says, I'm fixing an 8-track stereo for a friend, and all I can say is, why? Yeah. What we do for fun, I guess. Yeah, this is going to be a very powerful build without going over the top. There was some discussion. This is the 9900K. There was some discussion of going to the KS. So the KS is a limited edition processor. They're on Amazon right now for about $629. There's about $60 in sales tax. It's about $680. And it's really not much faster than this. More overclockable. If you're into overclocking, it's desirable. Or if you're a collector. So I'm a collector and I want one because I just want to collect it. I don't care that it's faster. It's sort of like the blue snaggletooth Star Wars figure that I had as a kid. It's really of no more value in how much it costs to manufacture than any other Star Wars figure. It was a mistake, and those who see the value in that, you know, those things go for $100 or more. Now, I no longer have mine, but the point is, some people buy parts not because of performance and not because of price, but because of other reasons, like in the case of a 9900KS or an 8086K, which you saw me build with, they are limited edition and exclusive. That 9900KS is only available throughout, well, like right now and maybe through March, maybe not. When it sells out, and Intel won't make them anymore. It's not the best processor for the money. Lamborghini may not be the best car for the money, but if you want to drive around in a car that nobody else has, you pay the extra money for it. So bottom line is, money was still a factor in this. Mike wasn't just throwing money for the sake of money. He wanted performance. So I said, well, you can get the KS for about $150 more than this. I don't think it's worth $30 more in reality, in my opinion. So he said, okay, 9900K. Mugen 5 cooler. He wanted for the same price as this 1 terabyte Samsung, he could have got a 2 terabyte Intel, but this runs twice as fast. He said, I want the speed. No problem, we got it. And it needs a good beefy power supply to power everything. And Mike was a little concerned about that. Mike's running a 1060 graphics card, which for the types of videos and audio production that he's doing, is just fine. It's overkill, actually, for what he's doing today. And he'll be easily able to swap that out. And then I'll be able to ship this without any concerns because there's no graphics card in it, you know. So when it ships via FedEx from Phoenix to Philadelphia, there's nothing in there to break free. All right? So that's all that. I think I got everything out of the way. It took me, how long did that take me to get out? 20 minutes. That's not bad. I'm doing better. Thanks to all my friends in blue for joining me. If you're not blue, it's my goal to make you blue. The way you become blue is through contributing. Now, not just financially. It means that you're nice. It means you're supportive. When somebody comes in and say they built a computer, don't go, why'd you use that processor? Don't question them. Say, hey man, do you like it? Yeah? Congratulations. You know? Good job building it. That's what the world needs more of. This criticism from others who do nothing against those who actually do something has got to stop. There's nothing I hate worse than somebody who's done nothing criticizing somebody who's actually doing something. Keep that in mind. All right. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for hearing me out on that. All right. Got my Coke in hand. And I'm going to start by prepping this motherboard because I cannot wait, first of all, to get this out of my way. But I also, most of our parts, as you notice, are in this little stack right here. And this little stack represents the bulk of the work we've got to do. So I want to start there, and I'm anxious to get my hands on the 9900K. I know from experience the Mugen 5 is going to cool it just fine. We don't need a liquid cooler. We're not overclocking it. A lot of closed-minded people, they see, like I did a build with a K processor with an H chipset. And people think if you use a K processor to not pair it with a Z chipset is stupid. But that just shows how ignorant those people are. In that build, the K processor was on sale, and it was $5 more than the non-K version. And the customer had no need for all the added bells, whistles, and features of the $50 increased price of a Z series motherboard. So we were able to get the computer 10% faster because a K series chip is 10% faster stock out of the box than a non-K series chip for $5 more. And if you won't spend $5 to go 10% faster, then you don't get it. You're just not getting it. So, but it is slightly amusing how many misinformed people like to jump into the comment section and make the world aware of how misinformed they are. I don't understand the logic behind that. It's just sort of like announcing to the world your inability to comprehend the lesson. And I just think that's not something to boast. But be that as it may, again, people doing nothing criticizing somebody actually doing something. But let's get started with the build. I am not a fan of this packaging. This to me is a complete waste of materials. It's going to go in a landfill. Intel is just going tit for tat against AMD and their ridiculous packaging on Threadripper. It's just stupid. If this came in a little cardboard box like all the other ones, I'd be a lot happier. Price would probably be about $15 cheaper too, if I had to guess. So I'm going to go ahead and set the RAM. We'll set the SSD. Cooler we won't need for a little while, so I'll move it over here for now. And let's get you switched back over here. In fact, let's just do both cameras. Why don't we do that? Let's go like this. Let's move this camera. And let's put it, yeah, we'll put it right over. Hold on. You know, I think I could probably zoom in a little bit on this one. Let's try that. See if we can get a good angle. Got to bear with me, my cameraman's a slacker. Let's see, maybe something like that. I think it's a little better. Nope, nope, nope. Let's go back. Maybe like that. That's probably a little too much. Zoom it just a little bit. Okay, am I good? Looks good. A couple other of contributions have come in, and that is from Ascended, contributed £5. He goes, I donate more, but most of my money is going to the People's Vote campaign and Labor Party at the moment for the election. That's cool. Appreciate any contribution at all. Robert Spidell has contributed $10 and says, Happy Holidays. Thank you, Robert. And Ronald Hambrick contributed $2 and says, from a devoted fan of over 10 years. Wow, thank you. I don't have many fans that have been around that long. A lot of people are just finding me now. So that's very cool that you've stuck around with me that long. Not many have. And I can't say I blame them. All right. So first thing we're going to do is get the motherboard out of the box. And we'll set that down. I take this cardboard out. And we'll just, now where's Lyle when I need him? I got a box for you, boy. And then in the box, you'll see we've got some temperature sensor, some documentation, another temperature sensor. I don't use those. There's the antenna for the Wi-Fi. There's a screw for the M.2 drive. There's a standoff for the M.2 drive. SATA cables. So Mike's going to want me to cable all this for the graphics card and for the SATA drives that he's going to be adding. He doesn't want to do any cabling. So I've got to remember, after I get everything set up, to add the additional cables for the drive. So all he has to do is open the computer, plug the cables in, the drive's install toolless. You know, there's no screws required to install 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives in this Corsair 200R case. And run the cables for graphics power, or the cable. And then I'll have to wire tie those up a bit so they don't slap around while it ships. And it should make his life real easy. All right, time to get the motherboard out. Don't need that. We can get this plastic off of here. Really enjoy seeing the I/O shield is already part of the motherboard, so we don't have to install this rectangular piece separately like we often have to do on lower end motherboards. I was going to say cheaper, but this one wasn't that expensive. We've got heat shields for the M.2 drives here and here. And I think that's where I'm going to start, is I'm going to put the M.2 drive in first. I got this new screwdriver the other day. I ordered it from Amazon. This is supposed to be, I think this is supposed to be one of those JIS screwdrivers. And I'm wondering because it doesn't look any different. Ooh, it does actually bite in there pretty good. And it's magnetized. That's the first time I've used it. I think it's in my Amazon store. If not, I'll have to add it. And the link to the Amazon store is in the video notes below the video. And if you buy anything from Amazon, anything at all, but it's my link to the Amazon store that took you to Amazon that led to your purchase, the channel gets a small commission of whatever you buy. You don't pay any more for it. It's another great way to support the channel. Underneath this heatsink, there's a piece of tape that protects this thermal. There's like a thermal tape here to help transfer the heat off of the SSD. Now I could put the SSD here or here. I prefer to go up here. This is a on some motherboards, this slot is faster. Sometimes this is a ×4 and a ×2. On other motherboards, they're both ×4. It just depends on the board. But generally, the top one is always ×4. Also, this is a harder area to get to once the graphics card and the heatsink are in place. So getting to this after the build, like if you use this one first and then later on you want to add a second one, it's harder to add the second one here. If there's one already here and this one's empty, no big deal to slap another SSD in there and you're in and out in a couple minutes. John V. Jacody Jr. has contributed $5. Thank you, John. Thanks for your support. Make sure John's a moderator in there. There we go. Okay. So here we've got, and I want to remind you, everything I do is live, unscripted, and unrehearsed. So if you feel like, why do these videos take so long? Because it's happening in real life. If you're used to watching edited videos with mistakes taken out and you know, take 1, take 25 until they get it right, you're in the wrong channel. I will say, however, my sister is doing editing for me, and she will take these long videos and chop out all of the chit chat and, for example, get right to the board prep for people that are impatient or simply don't have time or not interested in hanging out with me. So trying to appeal to everybody here. Let me get this 970 Evo out of the box. You'll see I'm opening everything live on camera. Sometimes people want to know how often I get bad parts or dead on arrival DOA parts. Well, you tell me. You're watching it and experiencing it at the same time I am. And you see it's very, very uncommon. Another contribution just came in, and that is from Ray Bowman, who's contributed $15. He said, the information and wisdom that comes with it is priceless, and people in the chat are awesome, as well as cheers. Love that. Thank you so much, Ray. Ray's already a moderator here and a frequent contributor, and I appreciate your continued support and contributions, Ray. It means a lot. Amar Kamad has contributed 40 rubies. He says, nice work, Kerry. Your channel is #1. Keep on. Thank you, Amar. Thank you very much. We are worldwide. We're broadcasting. In fact, just to prove it, if you're watching right now live, tell me where you're watching me from. And while you do that, I'm going to do this. So in the box, we've got the Samsung. I'm used to having to turn it around for the camera, as you can see in the top left. But now I can just hold it and look at it myself. This is the fastest solid-state drive you can buy. It's also one of the most expensive. This is $200. Now, other 1 terabyte NVMe drives start under $100. So why is this one so much money? It's fast, fast, fast. It's got a great warranty. And you get the Samsung Magician software, of course, with all Samsung SSDs. Another contribution came in from Ronald Hambrick. Thank you, Ronald. Now, when you open up the Samsung packaging, it's a little weird the way they package this. If you take this plastic lid off, this is our 1 terabyte M.2 drive. It's still got to get used to holding it so I can see it. There it is. Won't focus, but that's it. And I'm going to just gently, I'm going to put it back for a minute. I'm not ready yet. What I wanted to show you was there's more in here. If you look on the package, there's a little indentation, and you can pull the center out, and that's where your documentation is. Not that we're going to use it. Now we can get rid of that. So now I can take this little standoff that came with the motherboard. There's 2 of them. Robert Fitzpatrick just contributed $2. Thank you, Robert. I'm going to just open this up. And we're going to get that little standoff out of there. And we're going to put the standoff right here in the position marked 80. That's 80 millimeters from here to here. I'll just start it with my hands. And then we can tighten it down. Kind of hard to tighten with the Phillips. Maybe I can use a straight edge. Do a flat screwdriver here. Don't over tighten it, but you don't want it too loose, because if you ever have to take the screw out, you don't want the screw to back the standoff out with it. Not that that would be the worst thing in the world, but nice to avoid that scenario if you can. Now I can take the 1 terabyte drive. Label faces up. It's going to go in a bit on an angle. I don't know how well you can tell, but I'm going to put it on an angle. It's going to line up with the socket, and I'm going to push it straight back. And you'll feel it sort of bottom out against the back of the connector. And you'll see it's kind of springboarded at this point. Can I zoom in more? Let's see if I can zoom in more for you guys. Oh, that's the wrong direction, Carrie. And in this bag that's included in the motherboard box, there's a little tiny screw. We need to get that out. Be very careful. These are very easily lost. They can be difficult to find. Let's see if that fits on the end of this driver. Ooh, nice. Who knew? Now this screw, all it does is secure the drive in position so it doesn't fall out. So there's no reason to over tighten that screw. Just get it snug, you're good to go. That's 1 terabyte of storage installed just that easily. It's really, not exaggerating, that's just how difficult that was. All right, let's get rid of those boxes. And let's back this camera back off. Man, what an awesome camera guy. All right, I think I'm done with these scissors. Now we have the heat shield to put on, so I guess I was premature in pulling the camera back, so let's do this again. So when it comes to putting this heat shield on, we've got to remove the tape off the bottom. And immediately after removing the tape, don't remove the tape until you're ready. There's a very small slot. But don't put this tab above where it's contacting the circuit board of the SSD. It's got to go above. There's a little slot right there. And then it'll be a little tacky with that tape, and then we'll take the screw that we removed, we'll put that back on the end of the screwdriver. Make sure that's aligned so that the screw will go in. And again, just snug is all you need, and that's going to lock that right into position, and that's going to make sure everything runs nice and cool. Heat shields are not required for M.2 drives. They're nice to have. Sort of a smoke them if you got them, but it's not required. Unless you are an extremely intense user doing an extreme amount of writing to your drive, in which case you don't need me to tell you because you already know. Okay, let me just set this aside and figure out how to open this Dungeons and Dragons dice. I see a piece of tape right here. So that piece of tape just holds the label together, and if you want to see the codes on this, we can bring that up. Let's move it this way, get out of the light. That's our CPU. And the knife. see that just opens up like that. Because everybody needs one of these in their life. I guess that's my belt. Okay, now how do we open? There's a piece of tape here. There should be one on the exact opposite side. Yep, there it is. There it is. And somehow we separate Darth Vader's helmet. Come on out, Anakin. I know you're in there. I'm so glad they made this so easy. By the way, installing this chip would already have been done. Getting it out of this box is the biggest challenge of this entire process. I don't even want to call this a box. Getting it out of its, what was that thing called in Superman, where they Superman 2? Sort of imprisoned them in that flat piece of glass. Kind of like that. Oh, gosh. Come on, are you kidding me? Why? Why, Intel? What were you thinking? Overthink this. There we go. It's cracked. Should I separate the white from the egg yolk? Boy, I hate to see what this came out of. There it is. See, they could have just shipped it in this. There's nothing fragile here. There's no reason they could have just take this. I feel like I should mail this to Intel CEO, and every time I get one, just like AOL installation discs from the 90s, just keep mailing this to his house until he gets the hint. Just bury him in these things. What am I supposed to do with this now? I mean, it doesn't even say what's in it, right? I mean, because now it's just a blue cube. You know, you think they'd etch I9 on it or something. You're supposed to get some tape and tape that back on. Absolutely one of the dumbest marketing moves, right up there with New Coke. But at least, unlike New Coke, what's in it is good. So this is the actual processor. And you see, there's not a whole lot to it. There's no reason. There's absolutely no justification for this packaging. That is the state of marketing in 2019. So when you watch this video in 2019, I'm sorry, it is 2019. When you watch this video in 2029, you're going to look back and go, how wasteful, how disrespectful to the planet, and how simple people were to think that this adds any value at all. All it does is add expense and help destroy the planet. Installing the CPU is super, super easy. Let's get you zoomed back down. As soon as I can find the button, bear with me. There we go. So here on the motherboard, we have this area, it's got a plastic cover over it. We're going to just push down on this lever and pull it up, and we might have to help this up. Now, this little socket contains 1,151 delicate pins, so it's important that we don't touch them or make any contact with them. That's why that cover is there. So now we can get our CPU out of the box. You'll see there are cutouts. These little half moon shapes, these are for your fingers to go in so you can take the product out. There's your documentation. There's your Go Faster sticker. If you put this on your computer, it'll go faster. Hey, you ever seen a car win a race that didn't have stickers on it? That's all the proof you need to know. Stickers make things go faster. All right, there's our CPU. That's our 9900K. This is going to be Mike Smith's new brain for his computer. So every time you listen to the Mike Tech Show or watch a Tech Vets that's been processed or visit MikeNation.net or TechVets.com, you know that you saw the video for the machine that's creating all that starting in probably maybe later this month. So again, there's a little cutout in the plastic for you to be able to open this easily. And if my camera will focus, there it goes. Get my thumb underneath that. Now I don't want to touch the surface or the bottom of the CPU. And there are cutouts in the plastic container on each side so that you can hold it properly and remove it properly. And this is also another reason why you don't have to wear an anti-static strap. If you hold your parts properly, there's nowhere for static to go. There's a little cutout in each side. There's one right here where my fingernail is, and exactly on the opposite side. It's a little lower or a little higher, I think. Is it there? Yeah, it's higher. And that prevents you from installing this the wrong way. There's also a little gold triangle right down here in this corner. And there's a white triangle right down there. And you line those triangles up. Let's get you extreme close-up. Come on, let's go. And so what I do is I gently set the processor, lining up the two triangles. I lean it in like this, and then I gently let it go. Once I get it as low as I can get it and let it go. It'll drop about a few millimeters. And then I grab the edge of the heat shield and I just wiggle very lightly. Don't put any downward pressure. I'm just lightly seeing if it'll twist. If it won't twist, it's in the socket correctly. If I had better eyes, I could probably look more closely at that and tell by looking at it. But I don't, and so that's how I check it. But if you put downward pressure on this chip and wiggle it, you'll bend the pins. So if you're going to wiggle it, literally just wiggle it. Don't put no downward force. The reason is, the way this chip installs, if we back the camera up a little bit here, is through downward force. You see, this lid's going to come down, and then when this lid comes down, it's going to lock itself underneath that screw on the board. And as we bring this big lever down, this lever is going to add a lot of pressure and force that heatsink down, and it pushes the whole socket down so the pins come up, which makes them extremely vulnerable. This little plastic protective cover is going to automatically pop off. So I'm going to put a hand, let's see if I can move this. I'm going to put my hand on the big plastic I/O area. If your I/O area doesn't have any plastic, it's still okay. You put your hand on top of that. That's all grounded. No worry of anti-static discharge. Then I'm going to grab this handle and I'm going to pull it down. And there's a lot of resistance. Keep pushing it down and slide it underneath the catch. And this did slightly come up. This plastic lid didn't come up all the way. That happens sometimes. If I show you on the side, you'll see it kind of started to pop up. If it doesn't pop up on its own, it's now safe to just grab it and pull it up. Save this piece. Your motherboard warranty will require this is put back in before you ship it back to the manufacturer. If you ship the board back to the manufacturer without this, your warranty is void. So a good idea to hold on to this. It even says so in your instructions, and it says so, I believe it says so on the cover. I'm waiting for my camera to respond. There it goes. Yeah, it says right at the bottom. And it does go in a certain way, just like the CPU, because you'll notice it has the little triangle in the bottom corner. And you'll align the triangle. All right, guys, so that puts the solid state drive in. That puts the storage drive, the 1 terabyte storage is in. And we don't need this anymore. And we don't need this anymore, so we'll set that over there. All that we have remaining is the cooler and the RAM. Now, if I put the RAM in, they go in these sockets. We're going to use all 4 sockets. And it's going to get in the way of installing the cooler. So I guess it would make sense for me to at least start the cooler install at this point. So for that, I'm going to move the board out of the way, and we're going to grab today's cooler, which is the Scythe Mugen 5. This is a $50 cooler. I think it's $48.99 on Amazon. I just realized I got a POV Coca-Cola drink. Getting visions of Duke Nukem in my head right now. Come get some. All right. So the Mugen 5 works with AMD and Intel processors, all of them really, except all of the ones currently sold at retail, except Threadripper. This works with all of them but Threadripper. Now you can spend more money for a cooler if you want to, but I don't think there's a cooler this good and this easy to install anywhere near this price. So you'll see me use a lot of them. This cardboard box contains all the mounting hardware we need. I'm going to set it down here for right now. There's the fan we're going to use in a little bit. And then, of course, the star of the show, the cooler's right here. Take that out and set it down. The rest of the box is clearly empty and can go over there. So I won't need this for a little while. We'll open this up, and you'll see we've got a screwdriver in here. And not just a cheap screwdriver like other manufacturers include. Really good one. Hang on, let me take care of the dogs barking. Stay with me just a minute. Sorry guys, that was a few more computer parts arriving. All right, where was I? Okay, sorry, needed that. So back to this. So the screwdriver, it's just a nice high quality magnetized screwdriver. It's critical for the installation of the cooler. And it's nice to have around the house for just whenever you need a screwdriver. Inside of the box, I'm done with that. This is our documentation. And you'll see the documentation is very simple. It's one page for the LGA 2011 and 2066 Intel CPU. It is one page for the LGA socket 775, 115 anything, and 1366. And it's one page of simple instructions for all of these AMD sockets, which include AM2, AM2 plus, AM3, AM3 plus, AM4, FM1, FM2, and FM2 plus. So yeah, it's pretty well got you covered. But if you watch my channel, you know we don't need these, so we'll just put those over there. In this bag, stuff that. We've got these, I call them wire hangers, and they're used to attach the fan. Now this heatsink, you can add a fan on the front and a fan on the back. We're only going to use one fan, so we don't need a pair of these. So the customer will get that in case they want to add a fan later. We have a tube with thermal compound that's good for about 3 applications. Unlike other manufacturers, they give you a little plastic bag you got to cut open. You can put this in a drawer and use it months later, save it. You know, what's remaining of it, you know, from what we use today, there'll be plenty left. These bent brackets, they kind of look like parentheses. Those are for AMD sockets. We're not building AMD today, so we don't need those. This little bag contains those standoffs and screws for adding the additional fan, including little rubber anti-vibration dampeners to go on a secondary fan. We're not putting on a secondary fan. We don't need that. See, this installation's getting easier and easier, isn't it? These are used on Intel sockets, these 2 brackets. We do need the back plate. And then in this bag, there are two sets of standoffs, big ones and little ones. We don't want the little ones. The little ones, see, there's a big one and a little one. The little ones are used for sockets 2011, 2066. And on those, you don't even need a back plate. It's even easier to install. So those 4 standoffs we don't use because we're not installing an Intel socket 2011, we're not installing an Intel socket 2066, and we're not installing any AMD. So therefore, all of these parts can go in a plastic bag. I put them in a Ziploc bag and give it to the customer. I'll put the documentation in there and I'll get a Sharpie and I'll write cooler across it. So if the customer ever, I don't know, wants to change the cooler out and use that cooler on somebody else's system that's AMD, they have all the parts to do that. Or if they want to add the secondary fan, they can do that. And what we're left with now are the actual parts we need. And that is these 4 screws, the 4 screws, 4 standoffs, 2 brackets, back plate, thermal compound, fan hangers, fan, cooler. That's it. Contribution just came in from Paul from Mars, contributed $10. He says, Merry Christmas, Carrie. Glad to see Mike going high end. He deserves it. I've been off recovering from my early Christmas presents, a couple of new hips installed by robot arms. So cool. Who'd have thought, you know, if you'd have told somebody in 1955 you were going to get some new hips installed by robot arms, they'd say, all right. Cuckoo. Well, I hope you're healing well, Paul. Thank you for your contribution. Richard Angeline contributed $5. He said, I fixed my motherboard with your help. Right on. I love to see people helping themselves. I think that's awesome. Well done. Thank you as well for supporting the channel. I think I got everybody. If I missed you, let me know. Once again, we got over 1,100 people watching live around the world. I'd love to know where you're watching from. If you are normally quiet and don't participate in the chat, it is really, I don't know, it hits home when I see how many people around the world I'm talking to live at this moment. And I'd love to hear where you're watching me from. And while we do that, I got to get this back plate installed, which is going to be a bit of a challenge to film. Let's see what we can do. Let's move some stuff out of the way here. To install the back plate, I need this piece, and I need the 4 standoffs. And you know what? I'm going to grab a Ziploc here and put those parts away because they're in my way. Ooh, last Ziploc bag. Time to go to the store. Wow, look at this. Canada, Croatia, Finland, Massachusetts, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Canada, Wisconsin, the UK, more from the UK, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Portugal, Wisconsin. Soren Rasmussen's contributed 200 Danish kroner. It says hello from Denmark and Merry Christmas to all. Speaking of Denmark, well, I've got your attention about Denmark. I have a guilty pleasure. Hold on, I'm going to walk in front of this camera. I have a guilty pleasure that I... see, you just had to bring up Denmark. I don't know how authentically Danish these are, but these are a guilty pleasure. And I will buy these only during this time of year because they're not good for me. But these are basically Danish butter cookies. And you can tell I like these ones the best. These are my favorite. Should get them to sponsor me. These are the best. Oh, those are so good. So good. Sorry, I can't think now. What was I talking about? Oh, those are good. All right, so I got my little bag of spare parts. I'll also add this in there when I'm done, the remainder of what's in there. Luke Greenia says, I need a whole tin of those by myself. I'll fight you for it. Did you bring enough for everybody, Carrie? Mike Perodin says he's watching from Montreal. He says, good job, Carrie. Hey, thank you, Mike. Mean GR has contributed €5. He says, will you and Mike film the shipping and the unboxing as you did on the previous one? Thank you for all the content. I won't film the shipping because it's just me walking into a FedEx store. I can't film inside of the FedEx store. But I can ask Mike if he'll film unboxing it. He seemed to enjoy that last time. I don't know why he wouldn't, but we'll see. I'll ask him. In fact, I was planning on asking him, and then I can attach that to the end of the video. Or I say I mean my sister can do that because she's my editor right now. She's doing a great job. And if you haven't seen her video, she recently upgraded her laptop, and she's very nervous about it. She'd never done it before. And she asked me if she should film it, and I said, absolutely. And, you know, I said, if the whole thing is terrible and you screw it up, nobody has to know. But if through the process you have your nerves and you're nervous and you're anxious, that all comes across on the video, people can relate to that. And in the end, when it powers up and you see the before and after, it'll inspire people. So film it. So that video is up and available. It's just 2 videos back. You guys should definitely watch it if you haven't. It's a very good video. It's very authentic. It shows that anybody who is willing can do this, can do what I do, can do what she just did. It saved her a lot of money, and it brought a whole new life to that laptop. A laptop she couldn't stand, and now she enjoys it. All the parts for today's video, all the parts for today's build are in the video notes below the video. If you just read the video notes, there's links to each product. Michael Ram says, hello all from Bremen, Germany. Look at this. We have people all over the world watching us, and that is awesome. Awesome. And my sister, she did that without any of my assistance. That's all 100% self-created on her time. She had to deal with the camera, the audio levels. She had to deal with the lighting. She had to deal with the focus. All of that she did on her own. And she'd never done anything to that level before. So for her first time, unbelievably good. I hope you found it inspiring. Red Dragon has contributed $2. He says, hello from Oklahoma, and have a nice day all. Hey, Red Dragon, thank you for the contribution. Okay, so I got to get this back plate installed. And I think I need to sort of step over here. I got to figure out how I want to do this. This is going to be a little bit difficult to film. You might want to watch the corner video as well, just to get all the angles. Because what I have to do is I'm going to pick the board up, and you'll notice when I pick the board up, move the board down. When I pick up the motherboard, I'm going to grab it where there are no metal parts. So I'm grabbing it by plastic and by this back I/O, which technically the back I/O is metal, but it's not part of the circuit board. And I just want to set it up on its edge because I need access to this back area. And I'm going to take the back plate, which is metal, it's not plastic like other cooler manufacturers cheap out on. And it's got 2 holes in the back plate. And those 2 holes align with those 2 screws right there. So we're just going to set that right over it with the rubber pads against the motherboard. We want the rubber pads against the motherboard. Now there's 3 holes in each corner. And for socket 1151, we use the middle hole. So what I'm going to do is just hold that in place. And again, I want you to notice I'm not touching anything silver on the back of this board. I'll put my finger or fingers on the back plate to hold it in place. I'm going to put my thumb on the edge of the board. Wearing an anti-static strap now becomes irrelevant because if there's a static shock, it goes through the back plate or it goes through the edge of the board. There's no harm in any of that. It's sort of like touching a doorknob. It doesn't hurt anything. If you want to wear an electric static strap, I'm not against it. I just don't wear one. And because I know how to handle the parts properly. Now I'm going to turn the board over and I'm going to grab one of these standoffs right here. And I'm just going to pick any corner. I suppose this one's the easiest. Start with the easiest one. And we need to make sure that it's being aligned with that middle hole. There it is. I can see it poking through. And I just want to give that a few turns. Righties tighties, lefties loosies. You had a terrible view of that, and I apologize. Then we're going to do the opposite corner. And the reason we do the opposite corner is when this is locked in position on these two sides, then these two sides are then automatically by default already aligned, and I don't have to hold it with my hand anymore. So same thing, I want to make sure that this is flush against the back of the board or it won't reach, and that as I tighten it, that it's coming through the center hole, and it is. So now I can give that some more turns and set the board down. Now I can bring these down a bit more with the included driver. I don't want to tighten them all the way, but I can turn them a few more turns. And like I said, this is super easy to put these last two in now because the back plate is all aligned properly. Now that they're all started, I can tighten them down. It's good to do opposite corners. It's good because you want that back plate to be completely flush. It's possible if you tighten one side and then the other, you end up with a warp. It's nothing that your eyes can really see, but it can affect the way the cooler sits as well as the performance of the cooler. So it's very simple to do this stuff. It's just these little details you got to watch for. And as long as you know to watch for them, they're super easy. And I'm going to just keep going around and tightening this until I feel like I'm getting, you know, these aren't wanting to turn without significant force. You don't want to use too much force. You can crush the motherboard. So I just keep dancing around it. Sometimes as you tighten one screw, another screw loosens, so I'm looking for a little consistency in how tight they are. This is really feeling good right now. That's, yeah, you see they're barely moving. That's what I'm looking for. That's it. Next, I can put the brackets on. So these are the brackets, and let's see if I can zoom in a little closer with this camera here. Sound effects of the zoom. There we go. Perfect. These are going to go on. You see where this lever is that we moved to get the CPU in and out? This is going to go right over that lever. It's got a little ridge that goes up. It doesn't go down. This would be wrong. This is correct. This is wrong. 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 And this is wrong. The right way, it's just like that. So again, little details, super easy. Now using the screws that we have right there, you see these long elongated holes. They're for different socket types. Just get this started. I think this goes towards the inside if memory serves correct. So we'll go towards the inside of that last hole, towards the bottom. Come on now. There we go. Got a few turns. Don't tighten it yet. Same on the other side. There and there. Oops. That screwdriver bites in there really good. Now we're going to do the exact same thing facing asymmetrical. It is symmetrical, not asymmetrical. They face each other. It's like a mirror image. And then we'll grab those last two screws and we'll secure that. Once again, I want to be on the bottom part. Just get it started. That way we can still move it around nice and easy. It's super loose. That's it. So that pretty much preps our cooler for installation. All we have to do now is apply the thermal compound and attach the large cooler to it. The cooler's already got captured screws here and here that are going to go right through that center hole on each one of those brackets. That's how easy this cooler is to install. So before we get to that though, this may be a good time for me to put the RAM in. And I'm thinking about this right up in this corner. This can be a real pain to try and get to a point with a screwdriver. These two connectors for power can be very difficult to access, especially in the Corsair 200R case once the motherboard is installed. So because this is a modular power supply, I can go ahead and connect the cable before I install the board. Sometimes I wait to install the heatsink because if I put the board in without the heatsink, I can reach over with my hands and plug in the cable to that area right there. But if I put the heatsink on, then the top of the case is there. It's almost impossible for me to get my hands in there. So I'm just thinking ahead and thinking out loud. We're going to be okay on this build. Let's back this secondary camera off. There we go. Much better. And I see a couple other contributions came in, so let me say thank you to those folks. I see Stephen Bernstein joins us. Stephen's a friend of the channel. Thank you, Steve, for joining us today. John Craig contributed £5. He goes, here's some more Linctus, Latin for cough medicine. Yeah, this cough is kind of hanging in there, but I feel okay. Ronald Hambrick has again contributed $2. He says, have a Coke on me. Well, I think I will. Thank you. Rudiger Luthi has contributed $5.99. He says, I love your sister's laptop upgrade. And that comes from Rudy, and he's in Newport News, Virginia. Steve Devine contributed $2 and says, have a Coke on me. Thank you, Steve. Like to share a Coke with you. That would be my preference. We'll get there. And Madi Yoel. Madi has contributed $5. Madi just ordered a 9900 KS. I suggested if he wanted one, he better get one soon. I think the price is, I could be wrong, but I predict the price is going to go up and the inventory is going to go away. So if you see one available, buy it if you want it, if you see a value in that. Again, it's more of an exclusivity type thing, not so much a value, a bargain. It's really about, anybody can buy a purse, but some people want Coach or Michael Kors or Gucci. It's still a purse, you know what I mean? If that means something to you, get one where you can get them, because by June, they'll be over $1,000 on eBay, or, if you're an investor and you want to buy one and sell it in June, keep it in the box, don't open it. I'm sure somebody out there would be willing to pay for it sooner or later if you list it for sale long enough. Me personally, I believe in enjoying this stuff. I believe in taking it out of the box and using it. And someone says, what do you got? I go, 9900 KS. Well, where do I get one? Oh, you can't. There's some joy in that. It's twisted and it's wrong. All right. Let me get my rubber glove, because things are about to get real. It's not, oops, sorry, Jimmy. It's not a rubber glove, it's a nitrile glove. We don't want to use rubber or latex on the computer. They like electricity too much. But nitrile is good when it comes to not contributing to static distribution. Okay. There we go. You getting worried yet, Mike? Now, always make sure your glove is clean. We do not want to have any contamination on the thermal compound. That's why we're not touching the top or the bottom of the CPU. You've seen I have not been touching the top of that CPU. I want that surface completely clean. I also need the bottom of the heatsink completely clean, but it's got a piece of plastic over it right now that we'll remove just prior to putting it on, so we keep it clean. So it's important that if you're gonna spread your thermal compound, as I am, that you make sure whatever you're spreading it with is completely clean. So I'm going to check and see if my glove is clean. We're good. It cracks me up every time. I don't care what you think, childish or not, it's funny. Now, everybody's got their own little way of spreading thermal compound. I don't care. Just put it on there. And let me get you to zoom in here. You can watch this in gory detail. Really have a light reflection there. It's pretty bad. All right, so I'm going to take the lid off the thermal compound, and we're going to put a dab of it. Just trying to imagine how much it would take to cover the surface. That looks pretty good. And there's still plenty left in this tube. So we'll put the lid back on there, and we'll put this back in the Ziploc bag for the customer. And then I'm going to use the finger on the glove, and I'm going to finger paint. I don't want to be able to see the silver when it's completely covered. And some people have made up stuff about air bubbles and stuff like that. And those people are what we call hypochondriacs. But what you can do if you are curious about air bubbles, one of the ways you prevent them is by not making the thermal compound smooth. By tapping on it and making it tacky, you create these little mountains and valleys. And so, look at that. Pretty simple solution to that problem, right? Now you can see I've kind of got some thermal compound here. I'm going to wipe that off. Not that anybody's going to see it. Nobody's ever going to see that. But that's the kind of guy I am. That's the kind of detail I'm looking at. And the quality that I put into my build. And you see all the thermal compound I got on my fingertips there. Trying to find. You can even get a little Q-tip or paper towel or something like that. And now, take the glove off. You have to watch the top corner for that. And I turn it inside out, and then that'll just go in the trash. So that is a very inexpensive and good way to install the thermal compound, because I can guarantee that my internal heat spreader, my IHS, or the top of the CPU, has equal coverage across the entire surface. There's not too little, there's not too much. When people compress down the thermal compound that's in a dab, there's no way to know until you take the heatsink back off again if you've got enough, too much, too little. Isn't it just weird that it works no matter how big or how little of the pea size? So that's why it's not that critical. This just makes my OCD happy. I know with confidence, I don't have to wonder. Did the refrigerator light turn off when I closed the door? I gotta know. Is my thermal compound completely covering my CPU equally across 100% of its surface? I have to know, okay? I've been doing this for 30 years, guys. This works. But so does the dab method, and so does the lines and the X and the dots. They all work. So let's argue about it. All right, now I can put the heat sink on. Paul wants to know, is there a fan header in that corner? Paul wants to know if there's a fan header in this corner. Usually. Yep, there sure is. It's right there. Yep. But that's no problem to get to with the, one of my viewers, I'm sorry I can't remember who sent me the forceps, but they work wonders to put that little fan header there. And you don't have to use that one, by the way. There's fan headers all across this board. There's one there, 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 there. Usually there's one right in here, but I don't see one. But it's common to be in this area as well. Looks like there's plenty of fans. Well, wait a minute. That's not a fan header. 1, 2, 3 fan headers. That's, no. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 fan headers on this board. Oh, you weren't seeing me point at the bottom. I'm sorry. I just realized that. 1, 2, 3. Those were the 3 at the bottom. And then 3 at the top. 2 right there. Yeah. So you don't have to use that one, but I prefer to, and I will. So here I've got the heatsink, and remember I said it's got a piece of protective tape keeping any dirt or oils from your skin on the bottom of this. So you don't want to remove this until you're ready to install it. We are ready to install it, and so the tape comes off. Now you'll see one screw is sort of underneath the heatsink, and the other screw sits off to the side. This screw that sits off to the side goes towards your RAM. So we're going to set that down right like so, just right on top. And you'll notice I didn't put any thermal compound on the heatsink. The thermal compound goes on the CPU only. The problem with putting it on the heatsink is you don't know where it aligns with the CPU. So you end up with all this goop, and it's messy. So you put it on the CPU, and then when the heatsink lands on it, that's the part of the heatsink that shares thermal compound, and the rest of the heatsink stays clean, keeps your motherboard clean. And of course, if you're using conductive thermal compound, keeps you from having a short. Is that a short joke? Now what I'm going to do is just turn this screw a couple of times through this hole on the top using the included screwdriver that Scythe includes with the $49 cooler here. We'll find that screw and we'll get it started. Once they're started, we can give them a couple extra turns, and we want to equally turn them. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever number you count to the same number on the other side. And then if you want, you go a couple more while you're there, and then come over here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and go back over here. This one's 5, come back over here. 2, 3, 4, come back over here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that one's already locked down. These do come to a dead stop. And you don't have to be exact, you don't have to be precise. You just want to try and level them, have them seat down relatively close to each other so that one side doesn't tighten and it causes that same warpage. It's the same reason when you put on a car tire, you tighten the bolts in a star pattern, you don't go around in a circle. Or the rim on the tire can get bent to one side, and you can't see it with the naked eye, but you feel it when you drive. And generally it means a new rim when that happens. So it's a similar concept here. Now, this is what the heatsink looks like installed. It's beautiful. Our fan is going to go on the side with the RAM. So we take the enclosed fan. This part of the fan that's exposed, that has the label that spins, this is the side that draws air in. On the other side, you'll see we have these support brackets, and as the fan turns, this label doesn't move. That's the side air comes out of. And what we want to do is we want to draw the air in this side, from the side of the RAM, and we want to push it out through the back of the case where we have our I/O ports. We want the air coming out this way. And there'll also be a fan on the back of the case moving the air in the same direction. We don't want fans pushing air against each other, or you end up with just a dead spot where it's going to get really hot. Having more fans does not make your system run cooler, and putting them installing them incorrectly can actually make the system run hotter, much hotter. Now, using these enclosed brackets, I can already tell I want this cable to come out of the bottom right corner, so that when I put this on here, this cable will go a short distance right onto the motherboard here. So if I put this on this way, I got to run the cable around, and I don't want this cable to ever interfere into this fan. So I want the cable to be as short as possible, to run the shortest distance, right? And that's going to make everything look clean and avoid any sort of interference from the cable into the fan. And so we're going to take the enclosed wire hanger and we'll just place it right through these holes you think are for screws. And as you can see, the wire hanger goes on just like that. And we'll take the other one and put it on the opposite side. Again, that's what it's going to look like. It's very simple. It's very simple. The top of this heatsink has little grooves in it, and the fan will align in the grooves. You may have to pull back on these little wire hangers. The fan will fit right in there perfectly. See that? Isn't that incredible? That is what we call engineering. Good engineering. So what I'm looking at right now, I want to pull back on this hanger too on the other side, so that that sits flush in that groove. There should be, this should be flat. One side should not be raised up. So take a look, make sure it's straight. And then grab one of these wire hangers with you. I'm going to use my thumb and my hand, and I'm going to pull it and lock it into that spot. I have to hold on to this fan right now or it'll swing open like a door until I tighten the other side. So let me spin this around so you can see me do this. You wouldn't spin this around when you're doing it, but you're not making a video. Okay, so there's the other side. I'm going to grab this side, pull it back. That's not in all the way. There it is. And as you can see, fan is nice and level. And it sticks up a little bit. That's what it's supposed to do. Now back the camera back off. Now this is a good opportunity to wire tie, to take these wire ties off and to replace it with a nylon zip tie. And I don't have any, so give me a minute. Let me grab a couple nylon zip ties for that. This will be a pain in the butt to do after the motherboard is installed. Again, this stuff is super easy. As long as you pay attention to these little details, your life will be a lot easier. So I got a big old thing of zip ties. I use a lot of zip ties because I like, like my work to look good, I think we'll use 2. And I got these cutters. So all these cutters, all these tools, everything you see, the mouse and keyboard, everything I use in my videos is all in my Amazon store. This is where I bought it. You can buy it from the same place and pay the same price. These wire cutters, love these. I think these are Italian. These are fantastic wire cut. I mean, these are the best. And I use these to cut the pigtails off the zip ties. Dan Bags has contributed $2. Thank you, Dan. Okay, so now's a good opportunity to just wire tie this. And if you're careful and don't cut into the wire, you get rid of that wire tie. There's wire in this. What happens over time is these get brittle and they break, and then they start floating around in your computer. And they could get behind the motherboard or short out something and fry your whole computer. So even if you've got a cable that's wire tied you're not using, my recommendation is take the wire tie off and replace it with a nylon zip tie. There should be 0 wire ties in your system when you're done. Now this cable, you can see, is already folded, and I'm going to leave it exactly the way it is. I'm just simply going to put a wire tie in each side. Nylon zip tie. The terminology is easy for me to misuse the word when I mean nylon zip tie after I just told you not to use wire ties. So I just started those, and what I want to do is just make some adjustments to this cable so I have it perfect. And then close down one side. Again, I want to make sure I get that cable as perfect as I can get it. There we go. And then the same thing over on this side. Just like that. Now I can cut these pigtails off. I wanted to get them as flush as possible, because if you don't cut these little pigtails off flush and you run your hand across or your finger across, it will cut you if you leave a sharp edge there. And that's why I like these wire cutters. They have that little angle on them, and I can get nice and flush to anything I'm cutting, right even to a circuit board level. Not that I'm cutting anything off of the circuit board. Now right down here on the motherboard, there's a gray fan connector. Let's see if we can get you zoomed in here. That gray one, at least on this model of motherboard from this manufacturer, represents your CPU fan. If nothing's plugged in there, your system may not boot for fear that you don't have a fan running, and it's protecting itself. The fan connector itself has little grooves on it, so it'll only plug in one way, and those little grooves go around that little plastic piece that's standing up right there's a plastic, like a little wall. And there's ridges that hug that wall. They go on each side. Just like that. I don't know how well you can see that, but let's see if we can even zoom in closer. That's as tight as I can get. So yeah, there's little ridges on each side. And that's a 4-pin fan connector and a 4-pin plug, and that's how you know which direction it goes on. Look how clean that looks. Oh, if I missed some contributions to the channel, let's give some shouts out here. Let's see. Futuristics in Motion has contributed $5. Thank you to them. Ted Gaming has contributed 20 Danish krona. He says, hey, cool project. I come from Denmark. Well, thank you for the butter cookies and the contribution, even though you didn't make the butter cookies. Your people make them. Your people. What do you mean, your people? Madi UL has contributed again, $10. Thank you, Madi. And what else? Have I missed anybody? And Madi contributed again, $5. Hopefully I got everybody. If I've missed you, certainly not on purpose, and I will give everybody another shout out at the end of the video. So you'll definitely get the shout out there. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping me to avoid chasing after sponsorships. We can put the RAM in now. And here we've got the RAM. This is 64 gigs of Corsair Vengeance. I think this is 3,000 speed. Yeah, 3,000 speed. They're 4 sticks, 16 gigs apiece. Madi said, we lost you for a few. Okay, I didn't notice that. If there was a problem with the feed, I haven't seen it. That sucks. Well, hopefully I'm back. OBS says I'm broadcasting in green, so we should be good there. Michael Barros contributed $2. Hey, thanks, Michael. All right, so now we can take the RAM out of the package. Yeah, even this knife, this is on the Amazon store. Everything is in the Amazon store. Sharon says, I never lost you. Okay, good, good. So maybe Madi just had a connection issue there. Okay, we're gonna take the RAM out of the package here. I don't need the package. Now, because we have 4 sticks of RAM, and we've got 4 RAM sockets, we're just gonna fill them all. There's no particular order. I recommend you start on the inside and work your way out, just because if you start on the outside and work your way in, you're painting yourself into a corner. You're making everything tighter. So we're gonna open up these little retention brackets on both sides. Irving, joining us from France, has contributed €5. Thank you, Irving, and thanks for your continued contribution and support. I very much appreciate that. And Irving had a fun little challenge on Facebook. It tricked me. You tricked me. Little, you know, those little puzzles, word puzzles. Yeah, he got me. See what happens when you know it all? Somebody has to come along and say, you don't know it all. It's all in good fun. All right, so I'm going to take the RAM out of the package. Oh, there's another contribution from Madi. Thanks, Madi. All right. If you're taking RAM out of a package and it's tight, bend the package to get the RAM out. Don't bend the RAM out of the package. Now this RAM's in here pretty loose, so it's not a problem with this particular packaging, but other RAM manufacturers use different packaging. You don't have to take the little protective tape off of the brand logo, but my OCD requires me to do so. Again, something the customer will never see. There's a little cutout in the RAM, a little notch, and there's a notch in the socket. The RAM will only go in one direction. It's not going to go in this way. It has to align, and the way we're going to put that in is we find the track, find the groove in the track, straight up and down, and it should slide without any force. Make sure that the notch aligns with the groove. Now we can apply a little force with our thumbs, going to one corner and then the other corner. You hear it click on each side. We're going to repeat this exact same process with each memory module remaining. And Marty again. Hey, thanks again, Marty. Heinrich Bo Anderson's contributed 30 Danish kroner. Thank you, Heinrich. Now I'm going to get these other two RAM modules out of the package. There we go. If you want to fill all 4 RAM sockets, it's best to get a kit of 4 because they've all been tested together. That's not to say that putting in a pair now and a pair later won't work, but it's possible it won't. It's not possible that this won't work. It's all been tested to work together. So there's just peace of mind and, one and done. We're no anxiety. It's nothing we ever have to revisit. The RAM was all tested to work together and is compatible with each other. So in all likelihood, you can put another pair in later without a problem, but there's a potential there could be. There's no potential here, so that's all. One more to go. Sharon Idles contributed £2. She says, have a couple of, ooh, that's not good, Carrie. Have a couple of oncers. Oncers? I don't know what that means. Sharon's introducing me to all kinds of British slang. I don't know. Thank you, Sharon. Josiah Guernsey's contributed $2 and says, have a Coke on me. And Nigel Baptiste just contributed $20. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much. All right, let's see if I can get that sticker off of here. Come on. Now, this RAM has a big heat spreader on it, so you can hold it anywhere as long as you don't touch anything gold. Don't touch the gold. Once again, even if you feel a static shock go across the surface of the heat spreader, it touches nothing electronic. It's just touching like a doorknob. It's just touching something metal. The static discharges. It doesn't cause any harm. Okay, last module. Here we go. That's 64 gigs of RAM, 9900K, Mugen 5 cooler, and 1 terabyte of super fast storage right underneath there. See why you want to get that one out of the way? You see what I'm saying? Getting that storage drive in or out later, heatsink is a little over it. It makes it difficult to get to. Okay, let's back this camera off. There we go. That worked out pretty well today. Not bad. Not bad. All this stuff can go over there. Got some stuff here that could go into the trash can. Let's take a vote. We can power it on outside of the case. Now, I don't recommend doing that if you're a first-time builder because it opens the opportunity for you to touch something or short something out if it's not properly, seated onto a non-conductive surface. In my opinion, especially if you're a first-time builder, you should put the motherboard into the case so that it's properly grounded before you try powering it on. That being said, I am a professional technician. I can power on a board standing in a pool. Not that you should, okay? And I'm not saying I'm the best technician on the planet. All I'm saying is I'm experienced. Not the best, I'm just experienced. If you're not experienced and you're hearing online that you should test your system before you put it in the case, I completely disagree with that because you're just opening massively the opportunity to short something out. And when it's in the case and it's properly mounted, that opportunity does not exist. Should we power this on right now outside of the case just to make sure it boots up, or should I go ahead and put it in the case? I'm kind of anxious to turn it on. What do you guys think? Rich Robbins thinks I should put it in the case. Bill Mulway's contributed $25. He says, great job. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Right on, Bill. Thanks for joining me. Make sure Bill's a moderator in here. Thank you so much. Brian Rempels contributed $5 Canadian and says he appreciates what I do. He's a moderator already. Thank you, Brian. Ben Stroud's contributed $2 as well. He says, hey, everyone. Next year, my aortic valve is getting fixed. Man, I should get in like a punch card for doctor's offices between hips and hearts. Seriously, I'm glad to see you guys are taking care of yourselves. I come from a generation where men just ignore things until they go away, and it's usually the men who end up going away. So I'm glad to see that attitude's changing and people are getting things fixed, not putting it off until it's too late. Oh, we got about half people wanting me to put this on, turn it on outside, and the other half want it inside. Rich Robbins says, Carrie doesn't have a pool. Rich, I wasn't being literal. I used to have a pool, my old house. Does that count? Maybe I was referring to a pool table. Sharon says she's having a brain fitted soon. Did you find one that fits? I don't even know what that means, but it sounded funny. Sharon's got some amazing music on her channel. Sharon, please post a link to your channel. And guys, support each other, man. Sharon's got some wonderful, fantastic, addictive, foot-stomping music, electronic sort of EDM style. And it costs you nothing to listen to it. $1,290 people are watching, and you know what? I want to fire it up. So let's fire it up. So, let me kick the camera. Now, for me to fire this up, I'm going to need a power supply, I'm going to need a power switch, and I need to borrow your monitor at home. So I'm the only guy that's going to have 1,300 monitors plugged into his computer. And if you're new here and you don't know what I'm talking about, seriously, I'm going to use your monitor. If you do not want me to use your monitor, best to tune out now. Now, I'm going to use the same power supply I was using on the earlier repair or diagnostic video with the bad CPU. This is a Corsair EVGA. Corsair EVGA, did I just say that? This is why people don't do live videos. That over there, this is a Corsair power supply going in the case. This is an EVGA power supply. I use this for testing and things like that. And I just literally took it out of the box. And I'm going to go ahead and plug in the 24-pin power connector here. It's a Corsair EVGA. Carrie, you're an idiot. What? Don't mind me. This is why people have cue cards, scripts, and editors. If you knew the truth of what was going on behind the scenes of your favorite YouTubers, oh, you'd be surprised. All right, so put that down there. Now, we don't have to use, on this side of the motherboard over here, I mentioned these two. Even this camera can't film it. Let's see if we can twist this around. There's two connectors right here for what we call EPS power. This provides power to your CPU. If I can get this twisted around. Now, usually your motherboard either has one 8-pin or one 4-pin. This one has both because it's for overclocking and people will draw more voltage to get that overclock. We don't need to use both of these because we're not overclocking. So I'm only going to use the 8-pin connector. And most power supplies typically only have one 8-pin connector and it splits into two 4s. So if you have a 4, you can use a 4, and if you have an 8, you push them together. And this is labeled as CPU. The clip goes on the outside And that'll just go on right like this. Maybe. Maybe. There it is. There it is. So I got that out there. That's what that looks like. Is it dark enough for you? Come on, Carrie. Yeah. Not difficult to film at all. Super easy. All right, now this is all twisted up. Let me back the camera off first and foremost. Let's get this backed up. And actually, I think I want to keep it in this position. And I need a power switch. What I do when I have an old case, some old system somebody brings me and I'm going to dismantle it and it's completely useless, I like to keep the front switches and LEDs off of the case because they're universal. And a reset switch can be used as a power switch, and a power switch can be used as a reset switch. A switch is a switch. It's on momentarily, it's off. When you push the switch down, it's on, and when you let go of it, it's off. On, off. At least on a PC case. So the power switch works like that. The reset switch works that way. They're both two wires. What it's doing when you push the switch in is it's connecting these two wires momentarily together. And when you let go of the switch, it's disconnecting these two wires. That's what a switch does. There are what we call momentary contact switches, which means when you push it, it's momentarily connecting the two wires. And then there are just regular contact switches where when you push it in, it stays down. And when you push it again, it pops back up. And again, it's no different than taking a wire and cutting it and then pushing it together. A switch makes that a lot less dangerous. So the power switch and the reset switch are the same switch. It's just depending on where you plug it into the motherboard that determines what it controls. So I'm going to take the switch and I'm going to plug it in to the second pair of pins from the left, top left, right there. I need to hook video up, which means I need to turn, I guess I can leave that on. Got an HDMI cable, again, available in the Amazon store. This is from a company called Twisted Veins. Just a standard, this is a 15-foot HDMI cable because I have to go all the way from the streaming computer, which is an AMD Ryzen 2700X, for all those people who think I don't like AMD. I prefer Intel, but I'm not against AMD. So this computer I'm broadcasting to you on is an AMD system, just so we're clear. All right, this is going to go into the capture card. Let me do that. I'm going to plug this into the back of your monitor. Here we go. Let me just get around behind you so I can get to your monitor. Now this CPU has a built-in graphics card, and so we're going to plug into that. Now, I have to give power to the power supply. Make sure the switch on the power supply back here, the switch right here, make sure that's in the off position. So some of this is a little overkill on the safety. However, it only takes a moment, doesn't cost you anything, and it won't hurt you to follow safe protocols. The other way, who knows? Can only advise you. So we have a standard power cable here, and we're going to plug that in like so. Now we can flip the switch on. You'll see the motherboard blink there for a moment. Okay, here's where it's going to get fun. Here's a mouse. I'm going to come stand over here, away from the fire. Mike Smith is like, should I have? No, you're fine, Mike. I'm just kidding. Mike knows that. Make sure that nothing is interfering with that fan. I need this fan to turn. Okay, we need to add another camera. Let's go to So input. No, I think I lost audio when I did that, didn't I? I'm going to do this another way. Let's add, I'm sorry, I have to configure the software for this. Add a video capture device. There it is. I think it's camera 3. Okay, so right now you're seeing a video that says no signal on it. That's your monitor saying it doesn't have any broadcast signal from the computer. So if I put this right here, so now you can see me, so you know the video hasn't gone dead. So I'm going to reach over and I'm going to power this on. Yeah, why don't we put all of them on, Carrie? Hold on. Give me a minute. Let me figure this out. Let's put this one here. Look at me. You know, this is all possible because of a gentleman named Colin Hilton. He's a viewer in England. And I mentioned I wanted this expensive capture card, and it lets me put in a lot of video feeds at the same time, 4 video feeds of HD. And that I was asking for contributions so I could buy it. And then all of a sudden, I got a contribution for the amount of the capture card. And he goes, here you go. And because of him, my video quality shot up like 1,000%. So if you guys see Colin Hilton in the chat room, be sure and give him a high five for making this possible. I mean, I would have gotten there eventually, but he did it like overnight. And I was like, wow, some of the generosity that I received from folks. You know, I do talk a lot about the nastiness and the trolls and the mean people, but my God, most of you were so fantastic and generous and caring and giving. And again, I can go the corporate way. I can go to sponsors. I really don't want to, and I hope you see the value in that, and that this is all made possible because of others in the community. So you don't have to feel bad if you're not in a position where you can contribute that way, but you can at least show a little gratitude to those who have. So that's all I'm saying. Okay, here we go. I was teasing you before, wasn't I? Here we go. Fan is turning. Now, I may not have the right input selected. We'll see what happens here. I have to give this a moment. I hope this is, I mean, it says it's number 3. I hope it's right. Is it 2? No, it's not 2. Is it 3? It's not 3. Is it 0? It's not 0. Is it 1? Yes. All right, so now my videos are all on the way. All right, so we're going to turn off the 2 secondary cameras momentarily so we can take a look at what this says. This is our BIOS of the system, and I can't do anything because I forgot to plug a keyboard and a mouse in. So let's go back to camera 1 and 2 again. Let me grab a keyboard and mouse. These are also in my Amazon store. This keyboard is metal, and it's got a built-in rechargeable battery. This battery lasts like 4 to 6 months in here. This also has a built-in rechargeable battery, and they pair together with one wireless dongle. There's a little on-off switch, so I always turn them off because I'm OCD. You could probably leave them on. They shut themselves off. That's the wireless dongle, and I just need to find a spot back here on the motherboard to plug this in very carefully. Don't touch anything metal. Let's go over here with it. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to turn off camera 1 and 2. Should still hear me though. And now I should be able to move around in here. So my BIOS version says it's F10. On a Z390 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi, what is the latest BIOS? I like to update to always have the latest and greatest. So what I will do is I will go to Google and I will type in, where's my keyboard? Got to use the right keyboard, Carrie. Aorus Z390 Pro Wi-Fi. and then I'm going to click on support. Now you guys can't see this because I'm on the streaming machine. When I'm vocalizing what I'm doing, and I've demonstrated this in other videos, but once I'm on the product page from Gigabyte for this board, I go to the support section, go down to BIOS, and see what the latest version. So it's showing me the latest version is F12A. That's 2 versions newer than what we have. Now you don't have to download the latest BIOS. I like to do it because I don't want to have to fix something later on. Whatever the BIOS fixes, I don't want Mike Smith, the owner of this computer, to have to deal with it. So whatever this BIOS fixes, I don't care. In theory, this motherboard, if it wasn't sitting on a shelf too long before being sold to the customer, which is me, it will have shipped with whatever the latest BIOS was at the time of manufacture. As far as I'm concerned, we're still in the time of manufacture. We're manufacturing the entire PC, and so we should have the latest BIOS on it. So what I'm going to do is grab, I have an empty flash drive here, and I'm just giving you a play-by-play since you can't see it. I'm plugging the empty flash drive into the streaming computer, and I am going to copy the BIOS file that I just downloaded. And again, if you look at my videos, you'll see specifically how to update the BIOS on a Gigabyte board as a quick tips video, so you don't have to search through a 3-hour video to find it. So again, the latest BIOS is F12A, and I'm going to copy that out of the zip file that we just downloaded and paste it onto this little 2 gig flash drive, which is perfect for BIOS flashing. I always make sure there's nothing else on the flash drive so I don't have any confusion when it comes to flashing which file to select. There's only one file on the flash drive. Once I've used that file, I erase it so the flash drive is empty again. Now, that's my process. You can do it any way you want to. You don't have to do it that way. I'm a simple guy, and if I only have one choice to make, I don't have to worry about making the wrong one. Now I'm going to, let's see, we can put you back on camera. Where is everything? Everything went away. Okay, so this is my flash drive I'm talking about. You guys have seen me do this if you've been on his channel before. People think flashing a BIOS is scary, and on a motherboard these days it's nothing. It's no big deal. The main thing is you just leave it alone. Make sure you download the right BIOS for the right board. But even if you don't, the board shouldn't even allow it. It'll say, no, not accepting that file. If it says that, you got the wrong file. You don't need to download every BIOS. You only need to download the latest BIOS, unless otherwise stated. I was updating a computer the other day, and it had about 10 new BIOSes. And I downloaded the latest one, and it said it's the wrong BIOS for this motherboard. And I said, what? So I double-checked. It's the right BIOS. Then I read the notes. It said to install this BIOS, you must have this version first. Then I looked at that version. It said to download this one, you must have this other version first. So I had to flash the BIOS twice. That's unusual. Was it twice or 3 times? I think it was twice. Very rarely have I ever seen, in fact, I can't tell you the last time I saw that, and I wish I would have filmed it. However, that was on the AMD system I built in the Ncase M1, which you can Google or you can see that on my YouTube channel. It's a mini ITX board. But anyway, I hadn't seen that before. So there are some exceptions, but overall, more times than not, you just get the latest BIOS. That's all you need. If there's an exception to that, it'll note it in the BIOS notes. It'll say, as I experienced, in order to go to this version, you must have this version or newer. And I was 10 versions back. And then that version or newer said, you must have this other version or newer to get that one. Yeah, so I had to flash it twice. Anyway, I'm going to just plug this in to the motherboard here. Now, sometimes you need to reboot the system for it to recognize the flash drive. Other times you don't. So let me just take a look and see if it recognizes the flash drive I just plugged in. And do give it a minute, you know, to handshake and acknowledge that I just plugged a flash drive in. So let's get these cameras out of the way. And let's go to QFlash right down here. In the bottom right corner, it says QFlash or F8 on the keyboard. Update BIOS. It does see the flash drive that I plugged in. That's our 12A. See the 12A at the back? And we'll just double click on it. It's reading the file. This, what you see in yellow is the default. That's what we want, the default here. It says intact. So we click on that. Now here's the key. Here's the secret to successfully flashing a BIOS. Leave it alone. Don't touch the mouse. Don't touch the keyboard. Just leave it alone. Even if you think something's wrong, stop. Sometimes in the BIOS flashing process, things may appear to lock up or freeze. If you do anything to interrupt it, you may brick the motherboard and you'll have to send it back to the manufacturer. Many BIOSes do have, many motherboards do have a dual BIOS that you can recover from. I don't want to get into that because quite frankly, you shouldn't need it if you just listen to me. Be patient. If you need to, go take a walk around the block. Go outside, walk around the block and come back. By the time you're back, it should be waiting for you. The computer is far more patient than you are. It will wait literally forever for you to return. But as long as you're not touching it, you're welcome to stare at it. It's a little like watching grass grow, as you can tell, but it's really painless. Now you can see in the upper left corner, it says current flash, model name Z390 Aorus Pro Wi-Fi, BIOS version F10, BIOS date 6/5/2019. If you look in the center of the screen, it's finished. It's going to automatically restart itself, and all we have to do is continue to not touch it. I know it's silly that you have to instruct people to leave it alone. But if you just leave it alone, your success rate of flashing a BIOS will skyrocket. And it won't be so scary anymore. Now you'll see it's off for quite a while. Leave it alone. It will eventually come back on. It shouldn't take more than a minute. However, you'll see the screen flash. I can see the fan is running on the motherboard. Here we go. It's already starting, and it still may not be done. It's still not okay to touch anything yet. See, it just shut itself off again. This is normal. It just turned itself back on again. This is normal. It could do this numerous times. All of that on and off, on and off. It's doing that all on its own. Now we're back into the BIOS. It looks a little bit different because it's a newer version. Here on the left side, it says DRAM status, and it's showing our installed memory. And it's showing the CPU fan is running. It sees the Samsung SSD 970. And if we go back to the BIOS settings, let's go to advanced mode. System information. Our BIOS is now F12A, dated 11/29/2019. We now have the latest BIOS version. It wasn't scary at all, was it? Yay, we did it. Now, after that rocket surgery, we can install Windows 10 on this out of the box if we want to. This is a flash drive. I like to use these SanDisk Extreme USBs. They are expensive. They are fast. I need to get a lot of work done. Time is money. So this is a 16 gig flash drive that sells for $20, but it's fast. Oh, I got a 128 gig flash drive for $20. Yeah, and good luck copying 128 gigs to it when you're in a hurry. I hope you're not going anywhere for a while. This, I can't emphasize enough, is fast. I'll be done before you are, and time is money. Therefore, I will spend 20 bucks on a flash drive. In fact, I can't even get the 16 gig Extreme SanDisk flash drives anymore. They're not even available for sale at Amazon. For $1 less, I get the 64 gig. I think the 64 gigs were $17.99 the other day on sale. It looks the same, but it's got, 4 times the capacity. Either way, it's fine. I'm only using Windows on it, so, Windows only needs 8 gigs. The rest of the flash drive is unused. I'm going to go ahead and plug the flash drive in over here. Well, we're done with the BIOS. Let me turn this off. We're going to turn this off. And let's go to, turn the other camera on so you guys can see. Here we are. So I'm going to take this flash drive out, and I'm going to erase the file on it so it'll be blank again for the next time I need to update a BIOS. I want to put the fast flash drive into a fast USB port. The fast USB ports are blue, so anyone will work. And I shouldn't have to change anything in the BIOS. There's nothing I should have to manipulate or alter. All I have to do is turn the machine on, and it will automatically scan to see what it can boot to. Is there a DVD or a CD, or is there a hard drive? Is there a flash drive? It will work its way through until it finds something to boot from, and it will automatically boot. Let me show you. I'm going to turn this on. There we go. Fan is spinning. Lights are coming on. We should see something happen here. And I'm going to shut these other two cameras down so you can watch. There's the little circle-y thing. He is a tech. All right, and then this is all your standard Windows installation stuff here. So we'll just go over and click Next and Install Now. When you're building your system, I highly recommend, if you're going to install more than one hard drive or solid state drive, just start with one. That way, when you go to install Windows, you only have one drive to install. It doesn't ask you, do you want to install in drive 0, drive 1, drive 2, drive 3? You're like, oh geez, I don't know which one's which. Just install the drive that you intend to boot from first. Once you get Windows installed, then attach your other drives. That'll make your life so much less complicated. Now, when I install Windows, I never enter a product key during installation. Never, ever. You can if you want to. I don't do it that way. You can download Windows 10 for free, and you can create the flash drive using the Windows Media Creation Tool. Just Google Windows Media Creation Tool. And you can make your own Windows 10 installation media just like what I have. Use any flash drive you want. An expensive fast one or a cheap slow one, doesn't matter. It's your time. When you go to install and you get to this point, in fine print at the bottom of the screen, it says, I don't have a product key. I click on that. What the product key tells Microsoft during this part is what version of Windows your product key is for. Is it for Windows 10 Home or Home N or Home Single License or Education or Pro? Well, I know what my key is for. I only install Windows 10 Pro. So when you say I don't have a product key, be prepared to tell Windows which version you want. Because if you select a version that your product key isn't for, then your product key isn't going to work. And you'll have to reinstall Windows again. So I'm going to select Windows 10 Pro and click Next. There's going to be an end user license agreement. I'm sure everybody reads that. It's a real page turner, little twist at the end. And we hit Next. And I always choose custom install on a fresh, clean install of Windows. I want it custom. And you'll see I only have one choice of where I can go. So even though Mike Smith is going to add 3 more drives to this, even if Mike had sent me those drives, I wouldn't be doing anything any different at this juncture. At this point right now, I only want one drive attached, and that's the drive I want to install Windows to. That's the only option I have, so all I have to do is click Next. Now, Windows is going to automatically partition this drive and format this drive and install itself. All we have to do is sit back and wait. It's super easy, super easy. Contribution just came in from a good friend, John Yasuda. Thank you, John. That's $20 John's contributed. He says this is a great build so far. Have some Coke and pizza when you're done. Ooh, maybe chicken wings. You and I have to get together for some chicken wings, John. I think that's what we got to do. 1,276 people around the world are watching this live, unedited, and unscripted broadcast. What's going to happen next? John Innes has contributed $5. Hey, thank you, John. Luke Greenia says, I just deposited the usual $20 in your PayPal again. Thank you for the amazing community we get to enjoy. Luke, your generosity is greatly appreciated. You know, and that Amazon gift card, I can't tell you how great of a gift that was, because I haven't used it yet, but I suspect there's going to be another camera memory card in my future. Like I said, each one of these cameras is going to take 2. So if I get 3 of these XF400s, then I need 6 memory cards. I don't need, I want. What the cameras will do is they will use sort of a RAID 1 configuration on the memory cards. In case one memory card gets corrupted, an exact replica of it is in the second slot, which I think is really freaking cool. David Williams says, you could buy a hot, fresh pretzel. Oh, don't get me started. That's one of my favorite things on the planet. And it's not good for me. John, how's that computer I built for you running? I'm looking for a pat on the back. Looking for compliments. I'm assuming it's running well. I'm assuming he's here with that computer I built for him. John had nothing but problems with his last 2 rigs. He had an X99 and an X299, and when he contacted me, he wanted to stay with that platform, and I'm like, well, that's the problem. You want a reliable car and you're buying a Ferrari. If you want reliability, don't buy the Ferrari. So he agreed. He was sort of at his wit's end. I think he would have agreed to anything because he was like fed up. And we went with a high-end socket 1151 system. And last I heard, he loves it. Carrie, the last contribution is from Jim and not John. Oh, see? That's what editing is for. Thank you for correcting. Jim Innes. My apologies, Jim. You guys got to call me out on stuff like that. Thank you. Ben Stroud says, get a Samsung 970 EVO micro SD card. Well, the cameras don't use micro SD. They use regular SD. They're referred to as SDXD. No, SDXC. And they need to be, I think they need a minimum of 160 megabits per second to record in 4K on this camera. It moves a lot of data. So those cards are right around $70. I haven't really noticed one brand being better than another. I typically stick with Lexar. Patriot's also good. And SanDisk. Paul Boyd says, I'll send you a Philly cheesesteak and a pretzel. Well, you know, I don't, I'm not a big fan of the Philly cheesesteak. I don't like meat and cheese together. When I visited Mike in Philadelphia, we went to Gino's and got the cheesesteak. But I just get the meat in the bun with salt and pepper on it. And it was good, but you know, it's kind of like steak-em at that point. And no reason to go to Philadelphia and, you know, nothing special about meat on the bun. But that's just, I'm a fussy eater, and I did like it, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best I've ever had. But again, I don't eat cheese with meat. I like everything plain. Anmar says 70 megabits a second. No, it's 170, 170. Did Mitch get his hair cut? Yes, Mitch decided to, what did he say? Become an adult? Mitch's dad is in his 90s, and he was afraid he might give his dad a heart attack because his dad would be super happy to see him with that haircut. And Mitch had been talking about it for a long time. I didn't think he was going to go through with it, but he did. And if you thought he looked young before, you should see him now. He looks younger than me. All right, so we're back to the Windows 10 install. It wants to know what region we're in. The default is the United States, which is where I am. What keyboard do we have? We have a US keyboard layout. Do we want a secondary keyboard layout for another language? No, so we'll hit skip. Now this does have Wi-Fi, so it's looking to connect. Right down here in the bottom left corner, it says, I don't have internet. I suggest you click that at this point. It still wants to harass you to connect to the internet, so stare in that same little corner and say, continue with limited install. When they say limited, they mean you're not creating a Microsoft account. And if you don't create a Microsoft account, well, you're limited. If you say so, Microsoft. Who's going to use this PC? Mike is going to use this PC. M-I-K-E. Next. No password. Next. No history. No Cortana. And we'll turn all this off except for location settings. Just like that, and accept. Should be about done. Robert H. Foyle says, you are a great teacher. I fixed one of my PCs by narrowing it down to the CPU or motherboard and replaced with a similar board and CPU from eBay for 95 bucks. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, people. Love it. Jim says, if you move to the previously mentioned studio, I hope we will still have the dogs in the videos. No, the dogs will not go with me to the studio. However, the kitchen will still be a place I return to. Sometimes the studio's not appropriate, sometimes the kitchen's not appropriate, so I will bounce between the two. And we should get the dogs on here soon anyway. There's some nice comments coming from the chat. Carrie's the best, blah, blah, blah. I never claim to be the best. I'm really passionate about what I do. And when I see a challenge or I make a mistake, I think it's important to show that, yes, even people that have years and years of experience make mistakes, and no, it doesn't end the world. It doesn't destroy everything. Everything didn't suddenly become pointless and a waste of money. It just becomes an opportunity to learn and grow. And with the number of mistakes I make, I should be like Einstein at this point. If I learn and grow from every mistake I make. Yeah, it's a joke. All right, now that Windows has loaded, now if I want to connect it to the network, I can. Now watch what happens when I connect it to the network. We'll go to my guest network here. It says, let's finish setting up. It wants me to create that Microsoft account again. Watch. Well, now that you got that internet connection you said you didn't have 5 minutes ago, but right back down in fine print in that lower left corner, hit skip for now, unless you want the Microsoft account. And now we can go to Windows Update and start grabbing all the updates. What I've installed is Windows 10 version 1909, which as of December 10th, 2019, is the latest build of Windows. And I can eject the flash drive while we're waiting. And while I could just yank the flash drive out, I prefer to eject it first. And then I can remove that. And this can go back to be used again on another build. And that's the number of updates since 1909 just came out. Because the bad guys on the internet are constantly finding new vectors of attack, and Microsoft has to keep putting up gates to stop them. Then they work their way around those gates, and around the wheel goes. So updates are very important because the internet never turns off, and more than half the world's population is using it, and not all of them for good reasons. Some of them have nothing to lose. So you need to protect yourself. And that part of protecting yourself is putting antivirus on, or at least making sure your Windows Defender's on at the very least, or Windows Security Essentials, or whatever we're calling it this week. And then, of course, making sure you always have your Windows updates. People who postpone Windows updates because they're afraid of the updates end up likely getting infected by the thing the update addressed. So you're sort of, if you've got that attitude, then you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So my recommendation is always get the updates and protect yourself. Because fixing a bad update is a lot easier than fixing an infected computer. Guarantee it. The lesser of two evils. Now, it's surprising this motherboard is the built-in Wi-Fi is, I don't even have the antenna connected, and it's got a strong enough signal to connect to my Wi-Fi. I'm kind of impressed by that. It's not good, It's my understanding, I'm not an expert in this, but it's my understanding that running your Wi-Fi without an antenna is not good for the, I can't find the words for it. You can do it, but you shouldn't make it permanent. You know, what I'm doing right now is fine, but if you have an antenna, you should plug it in. James Coles contributed $2. He goes, here's $2, good karma on your channel. Right on, that's what I'm talking about. Big believer in karma, but big believer in you get what you give. Maybe not right away. I'm not talking about instant karma. I'm talking about karma in general. So thank you for that, James. Jim wants to know, Carrie, could you possibly give us a schedule and some notes at your convenience to show your scheduled live broadcast times? Jim, there's no scheduled live broadcast times. Unfortunately, because I'm a real working technician, my customers call. And when my customers call, I have to prioritize them. Furthermore, there are things that happen in everyday life, whether I have to go to a doctor or a dentist, go to the post office or get to the grocery store or pick up prescriptions or get the oil changed in the car, their life sort of gets in the way. When I get a studio, when and if that day comes, I'll be able to tell you at least the plans for the studio, right? The stuff I do from the house, bear in mind, I'm self-employed with no employees. So not only do I have to do all the same things everybody else has to do with regards to dishes and laundry and, feed the dogs and do all that stuff, I also have to help my customers. And I communicate a lot in email and Facebook messages. People bury me in messages. When they're business related, it's great. And when they're just like, hey, what are you doing? Those kind of are annoying because I'm so buried. But I do try to respond to everybody. And then on top of that, I've got these videos to make. And so the video schedule just more or less happens when it can happen. So to give you an example, this video was supposed to be yesterday. And it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon before I was done with everything yesterday and was ready to start filming. And by then it was too dark, and it's been rainy and dark here in Arizona. Oh, that just installed a video driver. That's what that blanking out does. So my intention would have been over the weekend to say, come join me at 12 o'clock on Monday. And then you know what would have happened? There would have been no video on Monday. So I'd rather not put a schedule in and then have people upset that they came here for nothing, that nothing happens. I have no control over when the phone's going to ring, and I have to prioritize my customers' needs. Yesterday I had to finish the Wall Street build and get it shipped out. I had to take it to FedEx. I had to go to, I had a few errands I had to run while I was out and about. And then I had to clear the kitchen and then set it up for today's build. It was literally 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I was ready, and it was just too late to start. And I thought this was all going to happen yesterday. And what that does now is it's now pushed me a day behind everything else I had scheduled for this week. And I either have to make up for that by working late, which means off camera, or postpone it and push it further towards Christmas. Because this computer I'm building today is being shipped to Philadelphia, I need it to go out ASAP. The closer we get to Christmas, the busier the shippers get, the more likely the handling of the packages gets a little more careless. And I'm sure Mike would like to have it well before Christmas. So my goal today is to get as much of this done as I can. I'll be working on it again during a live video tomorrow. And then I will try and get it shipped out to Mike Thursday or Friday. And whenever I get that shipped out, then I can start the next build, which will be local. That's going to a local person here in Phoenix. And then after that, I've got 3 more builds. And those builds are just builds I'm doing for the sake of doing them, and they'll be offered for sale to anybody who wants to buy them. So very, very difficult to schedule. Very difficult. And I apologize for that. I know people would like a schedule. I would get more viewers on a schedule. but it's just best I can do right now, and I appreciate your understanding on it. And best you can do is sign up for notifications by subscribing to the channel. There's a red subscribe button below the video, and if you click on that, there's a little bell icon. Click the bell and let it know how you want to be notified. And if you like the video, there's a little blue, well, you turn it blue, thumbs up button, and throw a like my way. Costs you nothing. It's a great way to show your support, and I appreciate it. And Jim just contributed $10, so thanks, Jim. Chris Jones also contributed $20. He says, hey, Carrie and chat, just got in from work in time to tune in. Right on, Chris. Thank you so much. We're going to go back to Windows Update again and check for more updates. We will repeat this over and over and over again until it says there's no more updates. The system, of course, whisper quiet. You don't hear a thing from this system. I can switch you back over to, I gotta grab the right mouse. Let me switch you back over to camera 1. So here's the system running behind me. Well, that's a heck of a zoom. Let's see, let's go this way. You can see the fans are running. It's perfectly silent. I can take my microphone. Where's my mic? Take my microphone off. Put it right over here. I mean, I can't hear a thing. I think Mike is going to be a very happy camper. Look at this guy. You got to see this. Here, hold on. Can I move this over here? No, it's not going to let me. All right, hold on. Let me back this off. Try and put that back the way it was. And let's switch back over to this other camera. I got to show you this. This is funny. Let's go back to camera 2. Look at this guy over here. What's up, Jimmy? What's up, my boy? Are you being a good boy? Are you a good boy? Yeah. You gonna say hello? No, don't go anywhere. I just got the camera aligned. Ah, camera shy. He's camera shy. But look at how good those floors look. Sit. Sit. Good boy. Stay there for a minute. There he is. There he is. Can I have a paw? That's a good boy. Can I have the other paw? Can I have the other one? Can I have your other paw? This one over here. No, over here. Give me this paw. You screwball. You're screwball. You're so good boy. So good boy. Look at his face. Look at his face. Oh, yes. Oh, it's such a scrunchy face. Squishy, squishy. Hey, stop playing with my face. Good boy. Good boy. All right. There's a cheap way to get views. Show the duck. Farney Boy says it's cold in Chicago. Well, of course it is. Probably windy too. You're a good boy. You're such a good boy. That's right. Get me some likes on my video. Sit. Stay. Now give me likes. Give me likes. Good boy. All right, how we doing on the updates? Still working on the updates. check back on that in a minute. Futuristics in Motion says it is snowing in Niagara Falls. Ronald Hambrick just contributed $2. Thank you, Ron. Can I call you Ron? When did you put the floors in? We did the floors a couple months ago. I made a big deal about it, and I wasn't able to broadcast for like 2 weeks because of it. And it, you know, everything in the house, you know, had to be moved, which was not fun. So glad it's over, and I wish I would have done it years ago. Am I going to turn XMP on? I want to make sure everything works before you turn on XMP. So when you're building a computer, my recommendation is don't throw turbo and everything on until you know you've got a stable platform and everything works correctly. Once you've verified the system's stable, then turn on XMP. And if your system starts to crash, you have an incompatibility. So at this point, like I wouldn't have XMP turned on while I'm installing Windows. I'm still getting updates for Windows. I'm going to leave XMP off until, at the very least, until all the Windows updates are done. Once all the updates are done, I can turn XMP on. If the computer starts to crash and it wasn't crashing before, that means there's an incompatibility with XMP. XMP really doesn't buy you anything in performance. It really doesn't. Unless you're running onboard video or you're running AMD, there's a little bit of a difference, but it's not much. And on an Intel system, it's imperceptible. I can turn XMP on and off for customers, and they don't notice any difference at all. It's traditionally benchmarking software where people are seeing a difference, not in actual real life. There's a psychological thing that happens where they see a bigger number and they feel happy inside because it says it's running faster and they believe it. And they're like, XMP's great. So I will turn it on, but it's really not a big deal. And because of the risk of XMP can cause the system to crash, Threadripper, Thready that I built was crashing all the time. And I was really struggling to figure out what it was, and it turned out to be XMP. Now there have since been a number of BIOS updates, and I have been once bitten, twice shy with regards to re-enabling XMP because they just don't know the difference in performance anyway. The feeling is I've got it, I should use it, right? But if you're really not getting any real noticeable difference, it doesn't really matter. It's just a psychological thing. There are a few exceptions, as I mentioned, particularly if you're running onboard video and if you're running a modern AMD system. The AMD systems will see a very slight benefit from faster memory. It's not all they make it out to be, though. The Samsung 970 Pro Plus, that's a difference you'll see and feel for sure, versus other solid-state drives. Now, the only way we're going to know if XMP is going to cause a problem or not is we have to turn it on to find out. But thank you for the reminder. Thanks for bringing it up. Tom Scott says, I want to extend a warm and welcome to Carrie and his close family for the Christmas that's coming and a big drink of eggnog and a bite of fruitcake. All stuff I won't eat, but thank you. I appreciate the sentiment. And to you and yours, and to all of you, I hope you all have both a Harry and a Merry Christmas. But we'll talk more about that because I got plenty of videos to do between now and then. We'll talk more about that. We got some snow in Phoenix yesterday. There's some hail and snow, I think in Scottsdale and Phoenix. All right, this thing should be done by now, isn't it? Let's see. Oh yeah, it wants to restart. Let's restart it. Let's see how long this takes to restart. Well, it's not going to count because it's putting an update in. Sounds like Lyle's doing his job.
John Paul Bacon, you mean the 970 Evo Plus? There's no Pro Plus. Yeah, I do that all the time. I don't know why I do it. Again, thanks for correcting me, and we'll make sure we fix that in the edit, right? Live and unscripted, so I do sometimes use the wrong product name or wrong description. It's not that I don't know it. I'm just moving through a ton of information live, and I make those kind of mistakes all the time. But you know what I mean, right? But at least you're listening, and that I appreciate. We can tell who's listening. All right, so as this boots up again, we're going to go back to Windows Update one more time. This is taking a bit longer to boot because it's applying those updates. This is not the normal boot time. So let's go back to Windows Update. Steve Devine says, no worries, Carrie, we're the same age and you have all your hair. I'm almost bald. Well, you can thank our parents for that, right? Why is Steve not a moderator? You are now, Steve. Am I leaning against the keyboard? Is that way? Yep, I did that again. Oh, look, more updates. Seems to have applied it. We'll check again. Got to use the right mouse. Mark Roberts contributes £5. He says, keep up the great work you do, Carrie. Hey, thank you, Mark. I do the work to the best of my ability, and if you think that's great, I appreciate it. Bill Thomas says, your sister did a great job updating her laptop. I agree, absolutely. And not only did she do that, but she filmed it all herself. I had to give her the camera and everything, and she had to figure out how to use all that and get it hooked up and get all the lighting and the focus and the audio all leveled out. So I'm very proud of her for that, and I hope to see many more videos from her as well. Okay, so there's no more updates. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my utilities flash drive and I'm going to plug that in. And we can run a couple benchmarks. Let's see how this Samsung drive is performing. And let's make sure that the latest firmware is installed. So let me do that now. We'll go over to that flash drive. And you guys will see the names of the files on this flash drive. You know, VLC, Samsung Magician. If you just Google that stuff, it's all free for you to download. There's nothing on here that's pirated or requires a license. So if you want to replicate anything you see in my videos, just Google it. We're going to put the Samsung NVMe driver on the system, and then that's going to require a reboot. So if you have a Samsung NVMe drive, then you're using the Microsoft NVMe driver by default. Nothing wrong with that. The Samsung driver is more optimized. Once that driver gets put in, it can't take effect until the previous NVMe driver is disconnected. And it can't do that while the system is in the operating system, because the operating system needs it to work. So what it has to do is it restarts the system, and when it restarts, then it loads the new NVMe driver. So now we've got the Samsung NVMe driver, or we should. And now I can load the Samsung Magician software. Now you'll notice the Samsung drive didn't come with any software. You have to go to Samsung's website to download it. Because I do this so much, I've downloaded it and kept the files, so I don't have to keep re-downloading it over again. Whoops, English. And again, because it's a super fast flash drive, I can load the files right off the flash drive. I don't have to copy them to the desktop first. The Samsung Magician software gives us drive information. It enables us to do optimization of the drive. It enables us to update the firmware to let us know if there's a firmware update, to verify that the drive is configured properly. And while other drive manufacturers do have utility software, none, in my opinion, are as good as Samsung's Magician software, which only works with Samsung products. If your Samsung drive is put into a RAID mode, or is put onto like an Intel Rapid Storage Technology driver, then the software will not find your drive. So a lot of people are like, I can't get the Samsung software to find my drive. Probably because you have it in a RAID mode, or you've got your controller set to RAID, or you've got Intel Rapid Storage Technology on, something like that will usually cause that problem. So we go to drive details, and it'll tell us firmware is the latest version, and the NVMe driver is Samsung and not Microsoft. We are in PCIe Gen 3 x 4, which is the correct performance interface. Our temperature is normal, and drive health is good. So that's all I need from this. There's other stuff in here you can play with, but I'm going to leave all that for now. I'm going to go back to my flash drive, and I'm going to grab Crystal Disk Mark. I always use the portable version of that. Just Google Crystal Disk Mark, and there's a zip file you can download where you do not have to install the software. You can extract it into a folder. Here's Crystal Disk Mark Portable. This should be the latest version. I'm going to copy it off locally. Not that I have to. And we'll run Disk Mark 64. Now, just like a car, you have a top speed. Like once you hit the top speed, the car is not going any faster unless you drive it off a cliff. Well, the motherboard has a limit to how fast it can transfer data. And this Samsung 970 EVO Plus, did I say it right? Hits that maximum. Watch. The fastest you can go, in theory, without any, we take out of consideration the, I can't think of the words, parity checking, which takes up a little bit of data. 3600 is as fast as the motherboard will go. 3600 megabytes per second is the maximum capacity the motherboard can handle. And this single drive, as you can see, is hitting 35, 37 on these tests on the read, sequential read. That's pretty much it, folks. If you put this drive into a RAID 0 and stripe it, you'll go slower. So at this point with technology today, the fastest NVMe drive you can buy is this Samsung, well, that's not true. The fastest PCIe 3.0, because now there's PCIe 4.0 and there's some faster drives, but they're not as fast as they could be. So I don't recommend them yet. And that would be like on an AMD X570 motherboard, you could go with PCIe 4.0. I think that's all that's available right now. That being said, this is the current fastest PCIe 3.0 NVMe drive available, and it's expensive. But how much is your time worth? For some of us, like Mike Smith, his time is worth a lot, and he's got a lot to do. So he'll spend an extra $100. You know, instead of spending $100 for this, he spent $200 for it. And in return, he's able to be more productive and get more things done quickly. There are times when you listen to Mike, especially when he and I do Tech Vets, where he's like, hold on, I have to wait for this to, you know, he's waiting for the audio file to process. Well, that time should be reduced by about 80% or greater. Literally, it should shave off 80% of the time. That's the difference this system will make compared to what he has now. Now, the next thing I'm interested in are the write speeds. So if we look at the right corner, top right corner, it's about to begin the write testing, and it's going to start right now. Okay, it's doing test 1 of 5 on the sequential write, which it says at the very top of the window. And oftentimes on solid state drives, your writes are about 2/3 of the speed of the read. But here, our writes are darn near the same speed as the reads, again, on the big sequentials. So that is about as impressive as I can get on an Intel platform. Going to the AMD platform with a PCI Express 4.0, utilizing a PCI 4 NVMe solid state drive, we can hit 5,000, but that's still not the capacity of the bus. Like this currently is basically the capacity. The capacity at PCI 4.0, I think, is 6,000 or 8,000. So we're not there yet, but I imagine it'll be soon that the drive manufacturers will start saturating that. That's when I'll be interested in it. And as you can see, even the numbers below in the other testing are still much higher than what you might traditionally see here on my channel when I test like with the Intel 660p. So for the same price as what this NVMe drive cost, I could have purchased an Intel 660p, twice the capacity, and it'll run about 2,000 megabytes on the reads and writes. So not quite half. But for the same price, I get twice the capacity. It's a decision you have to make for yourself. If you want both the capacity and the speed, double the price again. It's $400. For $400, I can have 4 terabytes of 2,000 megabytes a second or 2 terabytes of 36 or nearly 3,600 megabytes a second. Choice is yours and your wallets. And again, you can download Crystal Disk Mark and you can run these benchmarks on your computer and see how they compare with this one. And there's our final numbers. I think Mike is going to be a very happy guy. Remember, Mike will be adding a GTX 1060 to this, and he's also got a couple SSDs and hard drives he's going to add when he receives it. Barring that, everything else will be the same. David Kelly, parents contributed $5 Canadian. Thank you, David. Bruno Antonelli has contributed $20. Hey, thank you, Bruno. Let's make sure Bruno's a moderator here. I appreciate that very much. Mark Roberts contributed £5. Oh, I think I said that one already. Thank you, Mark. All right, so here's where I'm at today. We're at 2 hours and 47 minutes in this live video, and I need to take a break. I think I want to put the motherboard in and the power supply into the case. I think I'll do that tomorrow, because I'm feeling a little bit, a little tired. Do you, any of you, have any questions for me? I will take, we'll go to like 3 hours, maybe a little over, depending on how much interaction we have here. But for those of you who choose to come out of the shadows and interact, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to provide answers for you. Please do so now, and then I will wrap up the video after that. I'm going to shut this computer down. So, yeah, those numbers look really good. Shut this down and see how fast this takes. How long does this take to shut down? Let's see. Well, did you blink? Wow. That was quick. Carrie, will you record the motherboard driver updates? You already saw it. There is no driver updates. That's it. That's all there is. There is a quick tip video on my channel. If you just type in Carrie Holzman drivers, it should take you to that video. It's a quick tip about just that. This isn't 2007 anymore. We don't have to do that stuff anymore. At least on the Intel platform, it all comes down automatically from Intel. I'm sorry, from Windows Update. All the chipset drivers and all that already went in with Windows Update. If you want, you can install the, if you have an Intel platform, you can install the Intel Driver Update Assistant. That's completely free. And it will check any Intel hardware for updated drivers. So Intel graphics card, Intel CPU, that's CPU. Intel hard drive controller, Intel Ethernet, all of that. It'll check all of it and give you the updates that may be newer than what Windows Update gave you, but it's just not that important anymore, guys. It really isn't. Primarily where we run into some driver concerns is going from one version of Windows to another version. There may be drivers that are not compatible with the new version of Windows. But if everything's running and everything's running well, there's sort of chasing after old school thought process there. Gary Tatum's contributed $5. He says, great show, Carrie, but it's time to go make the M&Ms, so I'm off to work. Is that like making the donuts? Steve Devine says, Carrie, thank you for another great video. Love watching your channel as always. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for joining me in the video today. When is the next Tech Vets? That's a very good question. I don't have an answer for that yet. I'm sure Mike will say he wants to do a Tech Vets with this computer. So that means I have to get it done and get it out to him ASAP. What's the worst that can happen with incompatible RAM? Your system will randomly crash, and you won't be able to find a rhyme or a reason. It'll be completely random. 1 minute it'll be fine, next minute it won't. It may crash 6 times in a row, then it may not crash again for 6 hours. It depends on when the bad part of the RAM is hit. So it depends what your time is worth and what your level of frustration is to deal with it. It won't cause any permanent damage other than, if you're working on a file and it corrupts that file, or corrupts any files it's writing to, could corrupt. That'll be permanent, but that'd be about the worst of it until you replace it or yank it. Bruno wants to know if I can show a video he made of his second computer build. Send me a link, Bruno. Send me a link to your video. And tell me that I have permission to re-air it here. I would love to share your video. If you guys have videos that, first of all, that you can't have any music in it. I don't care if it's royalty free or not. It cannot have any music in it. You need to have good lighting and a steady hand or a tripod, and I need to be able to hear you. Like, I don't care about an accent, none of that matters, but it's got to be clear audio. What I don't want, sometimes people send me pictures, and it's taken in a dark room, and they're like, look at my rig I built, and I see some LEDs, and it's blurry, and it's dark and grainy, and I can't make anything out. So lighting is important. Whether or not you want to show your face, that's up to you. I encourage it. So I'm not going to tell you I'm just going to air anybody's video, but it just needs to have sort of a modicum of, watchability. It's going to be bright enough to watch, steady enough to watch, and clear enough to hear. Barring, those things are met, I'd love to share your video and encourage people to subscribe to your channel too. Just share the link with me. Mean GR says, thank you for another relaxing video. Right on. Thank you for helping make it relaxing. Helps when I'm not battling trolls. Bessemer says, Carrie, I'm trying to update Windows 10 to 1903, but when I try to, I get an error message saying we couldn't update the system reserved partitions. I've not heard of that error message personally. I've not seen that. I would just do a clean install. However, if you want to address this specific problem and keep all your programs and data, go to techguy.org. TECHGUY, like guys and gals, techguy.org. They offer free technical support because what you're asking for isn't a simple fix. It's going to require a lot of back and forth, and not something I can help you with here right now. It's not a problem I've heard of. For me, I would back up the data. I would wipe the drive, install Windows 10 1909 clean on a fresh, let it make the partition just like I showed you here earlier. Restore your data back, put your programs back on. And then, see my concern is whatever problem this is, you're going to keep bumping into it every single time until you set it up right. Maybe not, but that's been my experience. I know if I set it up right, I'm good from that point forward. So you sort of take that sacrifice and put in that extra effort even though you may not want to, but you benefit from it from that point forward. It doesn't come back to revisit you from time to time. And that would be my main concern, is that you'll overcome this one and then the next update you'll be right back again. Doc Mechanic says he wants to update his computer, but computer comes back saying it's not able. Depends on the update and what the error message is. Type in the update number and the error message into Google and see if others are experiencing the same problem. And again, techguy.org for problems that specific that are, you're being very vague about it. Those people will take the time to ask you all the specifics. They need a lot of information. And if you want a specific answer, you have to be more specific with the problem. Now, somebody might say, hey, my computer doesn't turn on. Well, you don't have to really be more specific than that at that point, other than when you say it doesn't turn on. Do you literally mean no lights, no fan, nothing? Or do you mean lights and fan come on, but nothing happens? Beyond that, the specificity isn't required. When we talk about updates, there's thousands of updates. And we don't know anything about your hardware. We don't know anything about which update you're referring to. And we don't know what the error message is the update's giving you. So that information needs to be a part of a specific answer you're looking for. So you can help somebody help you by offering that. If you don't offer it, then you need to go to a site or a forum where there are people who will ask you the information they need, and you go back and forth with them until they have everything, and they'll offer suggestions for you. Site's completely free, techguy.org. But I hope there'll be some questions I can answer. Let me look through here and see. Kerry, the RAM you're using does not appear on the qualified vendor list of the motherboard. Is that an issue? No. What a qualified vendor list is, the manufacturer of the motherboard has tested certain RAM and verified that it works with their motherboard. Untested RAM, they don't know if it works or not. So if you're investing a lot of money in a system and you want to make sure, without a doubt, that the RAM you're buying 100% has been tested by the motherboard manufacturer to be compatible, then buy the RAM on the QVL list. And not just the QVL list in the motherboard manual, because that's outdated. Go to the website because it's updated. There's probably 10,000 different RAM modules that can be used. The motherboard manufacturer doesn't have the time or resources to test every RAM module on the market. And some of the RAM modules they tested aren't even available for sale anymore. And new RAM modules that weren't out when they did the testing are available. So, the bottom line is, when RAM is on the QVL list, it's been tested to work. When RAM is not on the QVL list, it has not been tested to work. That's all that means. Doesn't mean it won't work. It means they haven't tested it, and they probably never will. Because this is Corsair Memory, it's a big name brand RAM manufacturer, and the speeds of the RAM I know are compatible with what the board uses. I feel very confident we're not going to have any RAM issues. When there's new technology, like when AMD releases a new chip, oftentimes it's very sensitive to the RAM that's being used, and there's often a lot of BIOS updates that come out to help increase the tolerance allowed. But at first, and especially with new technology, it can be pretty darn important you get the right RAM, or you're dealing with issues. That's the joy you get for being first. This is a 9th generation Intel chip. And so RAM isn't really a mystery as far as how to make it work. Most RAM is going to work just fine on an Intel system as long as it's meeting the speeds required at a bare minimum. And then beyond that, it should also be fine. Maybe could be an incompatibility with XMP. Highly unlikely on a system that's been mature for 9 generations. More likely on newer technology. It's a good question, though. Thank you for asking. Carrie, is there any news regarding you paid lives? Oh, with regards to charging for the live videos, contributions have been very generous. At this point, I'm not panicking like I was. So, look, it really depends on what the contributions are from people and whether or not I can sustain. It also depends on what kind of trolling activity I get. Remember, I'm not just considering charging for the live videos because of generating more revenue, but it's also a way of getting rid of the unnecessary trolling. Trolls won't pay to troll. They're just not going to pay. So at this point right now, I don't have any updates. Nothing will be done this month. It's not likely to happen next month, but the month after that, I don't know. We'll play it by ear. Bruno says, here's the link, Carrie. It isn't like yours, but it's worth watching, and you have permission to show my build video. Hey, there you are, Bruno. All right, you got a video. It's an hour 51. There's your face. And do you show any parts? So here's a problem, Bruno. All I see is you from the chest. Oh, okay, you're starting to work at about, we got to go quite a ways in. An hour and 10, hour and 15, hour 20. Finally, okay, so about an hour 20, we see you get up and start working. You know what, Bruno? I'll share the video. I don't know that I'll air it, but here's what I'll do. I'll put a link to your video in today's video notes so that others can enjoy it. And looks good, though. It's a nice, clear video. You got good lighting. Looks good. Thanks for sharing it, Bruno. It's work, isn't it, making a video? It's harder than it looks, isn't it? Will I be back soon? I'll be back tomorrow to finish this build. Oystein has contributed 50 Norwegian kroner. Carrie, what are your thoughts on meltdown and other CPU vulnerabilities? Is it something a regular user needs to worry about? So the meltdown inspector, that stuff's been around for 20 years. It's sort of like this danger has always existed, but you weren't made aware of it. Now that you're made aware of it, you have anxiety about it. I have never heard of anybody affected by any malware that exploits meltdown or Spectre. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying never have I heard of. I don't even recall reading an article that somebody somewhere in the world was affected by it. But the story I like to give is this. It's just a made-up story, but I want you to understand the gist of it. I've been leaving my back door unlocked for 20 years. I didn't realize I was doing it. Now that I've realized I've been doing that, I'm starting to lock it. Now, by announcing to the world that I leave my back door unlocked, it invites people to come over to my house and try and open my back door. So it's important now that I lock it since I just announced it to the world. These vulnerabilities will continue on. There'll be another vulnerability next month and one after that. There's a couple times a year. They may be vulnerabilities that have been around for 20 years that we didn't know about. But now that the media has just announced it to the world, and now bad guys are going to start sniffing it out. These aren't the vulnerabilities you really need to worry about. In my opinion, you need to worry about the vulnerabilities you don't know about. So overall, I'd say don't worry about it. Make sure your antivirus is up to date, paid antivirus and not free if you really are serious about your security. Don't click on attachments in emails or links in emails that you weren't expecting. And always have regular backups. As long as you always have regular backups, none of this stuff matters. It really doesn't matter. You just recover from your backup. It's a pain, sure, but it's not like, it's not the end of the world. If you don't make backups, I guess it would be the end of your world as far as you're concerned. But with backups, you're impenetrable. You are indefeatable. With proper backups, nobody can hurt you. They can inconvenience you for whatever amount of time it takes for the recovery. But I can recover, I don't know, 40, 50 gigs of data in 10 minutes, with a Cronus. It's not a big deal. It's super easy. So if you're really, really concerned and scared about stuff like that, make a backup. Keep it up to date. That's your Prozac right there, man. Everything's mellow and everything's good. If you won't do that, Well, you're rolling the dice, I guess. It's your anxiety. Thank you for the contribution. It is a good question. It's mostly psychological. Have that backup, you're bulletproof. Kevin McDonald says, I was burgled, and the major loss was the damage to my door, not anything they took. I believe that. You see that a lot with automobile theft. Somebody will have a pair of sunglasses sitting on the front seat or something, and they'll break the window of the car, which is like $500 to replace, to grab a $70 pair of sunglasses. Carrie, what capture card and software do you use? So again, all of this is in the video notes under my Amazon store. I'm using a Magewell 4-port HDMI capture card. You know you're looking at the right one when you see the $899 price tag. For software, I'm using the free open broadcasting software, OBS. It's completely free. That's it. And then, of course, the cameras, the XF400. But any camera with an HDMI out, and then you can go straight out of the camera right into the capture card. You can, and the audio is going through the camera, through the HDMI cable into the capture card. And then you can use OBS to apply filters. You can apply color filters, green screens. Well, if you have a green screen, you know, you can do video overlays, picture-in-picture, audio mixing, noise gates, compression. All that is in OBS. Very powerful, free piece of open source software. It's perfect for what I use it for. But that capture card is the bee's knees. That capture card is amazing. I mean, I really struggled with justifying $899 for a card that comes with no software, shipped in a static bag, an anti-static bag, and a plain white cardboard box. You know, at least for that, I expect some ridiculous packaging. No documentation, just here's your card. But it's been an awesome card. It's been fantastic. I love it. And in my Amazon store, at the link below, that card is listed. I was using USB capture cards, but they get hot. They start to lock up. I start losing frame rates. They're fine for short videos. Elgato's got a 4K 60 frame per second capture card for about $250, but it's just one input. And then there's a 4K capture card I bought for the 4K camera, which is made by Blackmagic, and they're horrible people. I mean, the support is horrible. Their support is like Stone Age level support, where they got to do everything with pen and paper practically. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the guy says, I can't help you today, my pencil ran out of lead. So I don't use their products anymore. And the reason I'm not broadcasting in 4K, my internet service provider only provides me a maximum of 35 megabytes a second, 35 megabytes upload. I think it's megabits. And it's not enough for 4K. So I've got this investment in 4K that I can't utilize. The studio I'm considering has 500 up and down, and I should be able to broadcast in 4K then. That really upset me, you know, to spend $2,500 on a 4K camera, to spend another $200 on a 4K capture card. Then that 4K capture card requires its own special drivers. And then when I broadcast, I have a picture that's 4 times as big, but the quality of the picture went severely down in order to meet the bandwidth that I had. So I paid extra money to get more bandwidth, and it's still not enough. So instead I went back to 1080 and I bumped the bit rate up. And that's what I'm doing for now. But I'm prepared, you know what I'm saying? So when more bandwidth becomes available, I won't have to buy any new equipment. ACO Network says, I don't have any money for a capture card. Well, before I started going live, I didn't need a capture card. I would just film on the memory card in the camera, and I would take the memory card out and I would run it through Cyberlink Power Director, and I would edit the video, and then I would publish, upload it to YouTube and publish it. The only time you need a capture card is if you're broadcasting live, or you need to get screen captures, like you see the BIOS and the desktop crystal clear. If I point this camera at a screen, it's like pointing it at a light bulb. The screen has a brightness to it, and it causes the camera to dim, and the whole room around becomes dark, and you'll often get lines moving up and down the screen because they're out of phase. So that's a hassle. It looks terrible. And a capture card enables you to capture that screenshots perfectly, so it looks like it's right on your own monitor. That being said, I went for many years without a capture card, just utilizing, when I need to do screen captures, which wouldn't help in a BIOS, but like in Windows, I would use a Camtasia and then Cyberlink Power Director for editing. They're both very affordable. And if you look at my videos from, from about 2 years ago and beyond, that's how I did it. This whole live thing is fairly new. And when I started going live, people were saying, I wish you could do this. I wish your quality was better. So I had to be able to run multiple cameras. And this card is from Magewell. Magewell makes the 4-port HDMI capture card that I'm using. And I'm in love with this card. Like, I was so grumbly about that price. But I'm telling you, it's worth it. It's totally worth it. And you can use a webcam. Good point. You can certainly live stream with a webcam. You don't get the clarity like I get with these camcorders, and you can't necessarily zoom down in on the motherboard and stuff like that with a webcam. Certainly not as easily. They're harder to keep steady in motion. But that being said, absolutely, people stream with webcams all the time. Nope, you're absolutely right. You don't need a capture card for that. All right, if I have any other questions, let's see if I missed anything here. Bruno says he purchased the Uncle Carry optimizer. Right on, Bruno. Thank you. Louis67's contributed $2 Canadian and says, hit that like button, folks. Hey, thank you, Louis. Thank you for having my back there. I appreciate it. What video card is he going to use in this computer here? Mike's got a GTX 1060 he's going to repurpose. He'll take out of his current rig and put into this one. Carrie, please tweet an hour before you start. The problem is there's only 1,300 people following me on Twitter, so it's almost, you'll be about the only person who benefits from me tweeting about it. It's like you're asking me to do something specifically just for you. If more people follow me on Twitter where that actually becomes a platform that I can, take advantage of, I'll certainly start doing that. But for now, for the few number of people that follow me on Twitter, it's just not worth it. Now, on occasion, I do post to Twitter that I'm going live. I did that today, and I also did it on Facebook. But remember, those tweets stay up forever, and those Facebook posts stay up forever. So I have to go back and delete them so that when people, come in after the fact, that they're like, where is it? It says he's live. It confuses people. People often don't look at the date and time of stuff. I have people commenting on videos I made 6 years ago as though I just made the video today. They don't necessarily pay attention to looking at the date the video was made. So it's very easy to confuse people. So when the Twitter following, if and when it gets bigger, I will certainly make that a routine. But for right now, the best way to know when I'm live is to just hit that subscribe button. And I always try and give people 20 minutes to an hour or more of notice to schedule the live stream for later in that day. I think that's the best way that's working for my current schedule. Until I can, ultimately what I'd like to do is have a set day and time so that we don't have to keep wondering when it's going to happen. But unless people are paying for it, it's just not sustainable. I just don't make enough money to just say, I'm going to just ignore all my customer calls on Tuesday. I can't afford to do that. I will lose those customers. So when YouTube, if and when YouTube becomes a platform where people are paying for the content, and some of you are, don't get me wrong, some of you are very generous with your contributions or any contribution at all, but most of you are paying zero. And it's a little frustrating when somebody's paying zero and is asking more from me and they're already taking. So just, I appreciate if you keep that in mind. AC1 Network has contributed €5. He says, have a blast, Kerry, and keep up the great work you do for us. Hey, thank you, AC. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this name. I'm going to give it a shot. Rugiol Cappuccino says, Kerry, I've liked and subscribed to your channel. I see many of your videos, and they've helped me immensely. I'm 68, and I'm from Florida, and I probably butchered your name. DHR Street Speed says, I went back and watched your first couple of vids. 11 years old, leaf blower cleaning your workstation. I still clean out computers with leaf blowers, still to this day. The reason why I do that is there are a lot of people, and again, I want to keep emphasizing, there's a lot of people who do nothing, telling people who are doing something, they're doing it wrong. So by making videos, it was my way of saying, believe your eyes. Here it is. Here's me doing something that you said it can't be done. Here's me not damaging the computer that you said it would damage. In fact, here's me doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again across different computers across many years, and not a single computer has ever been damaged, not once. And yet, people will still say, that's not good for them. Really? Really? And you know this because they don't. They know it because they've read something on the internet or they believe something somebody told them. But I'm making real videos and I'm showing it's inarguable. There's visible evidence that you cannot debate with actual experience. So I'm afraid there's just so many people with no real experience, and they're telling people who are actually gaining experience, who have experience, who are doing it, that they're doing it wrong or they can do it better. And it's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. But that's why those videos exist, and that's why I continue to show computers being blown out with a leaf blower, because one, that's how I do it. Two, it's completely safe. And three, if people choose not to do it, they don't have to. I'm not telling people you have to use a leaf blower. I'm saying this is a viable alternative if you wish to pursue it. If you never pursue it because you think that's bad for the computer, I don't care. I'm not in the leaf blower business. But yet here I am in business for 30 years, and somebody with no business at all is telling me how to run my business. You gotta love the internet, you know? So just gotta find a way to tune those people out. But in the meantime, that is a motivation for making my videos, because too many people talk, and I wanna demonstrate and show actually what happens. And you think that would shut them down. It doesn't. What are you going to do? Mike Dane has contributed $10. He says, Merry Christmas, Kerry. Have a Coke on a Dane. Right on, Mike. Thank you so much. And Marty has contributed $5. And hey, thank you, Marty. Thomas contributed $10. He says, hey, Kerry, I just put together a Ryzen 2700X build with a Gigabyte B450 motherboard. I can't get the RAM to run at 3200 megahertz. Where should I start troubleshooting? I have the latest BIOS and chipset. Is the RAM you purchased on the QVL list? If it isn't, it just may not be compatible. That's about all there is to it. Mike Paradin says he's blown his computer out with a leaf blower and it works very good. Yeah, well, I know. see, whether or not you agree with it or not, and I'm glad you did it and saw for yourself, it doesn't change the reality. It seems like we live in a time where if people say something enough, they think it happens or it becomes true. Like if I say the earth is flat, it becomes flat. Or if I say the sky is, I don't know, plaid, if I just keep saying it, somehow reality changes. I don't belong to that school of thought because it's not logical. Things are the way they are, and whether you choose to like it or dislike it is irrelevant. Maybe you don't like the nighttime. Too bad. So it's just it's a weird sort of disassociation or delusion which seems to exist, I think, out of boredom, honestly, and lack of education. Those who are often the biggest conspiracy theorists are often, and I don't think it's coincidence, not well educated. So, in general, there's always exceptions. But they sure can be loud on the internet. But enough about them. Vern says, I just did my regular PayPal thing. Merry Christmas. Hey, thank you, Vern. Thank you as always. Your auto advocate is Michael, right? Contributes $20. He says, Carrie, thank you for all your help and your continued education. Happy holidays. Well, thank you. Happy holidays to all of you, of course. Zdravko Franjokovic, hold on, I'm going to say this right. Zdravko Franjokovic says, greetings, I just sent you $50 via PayPal for Below Pine. Thank you for your contribution that you share with veterans. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Well, thank you. That's very generous of you. I appreciate that. And I want to emphasize to everybody that the money that comes into PayPal on these contributions isn't going to my new yacht, because I don't have a yacht. What it is going to is the equipment and tools that I need to broadcast and the time I need to free myself up from other work to make the videos. So when I am sitting comfortably and I don't have to worry about how the house payment's going to get made, it frees me up to say, okay, I have time now, I can make more videos. I'm still going to make videos regardless. It's a question of how many and how often. So since I had to upgrade my internet because I was going to 4K and I had to remove the bandwidth limitation, it was $50. My bill this month, well, my bill every month now just for internet and basic cable, I don't have any paid television channels, $275 a month. I used to pay less than half that. I used to pay around $120 a month. So now it's doubled, and I got to call the cable company and do something about it. So what ends up happening is things start costing more money. The more I start to grow and expand, the more it starts to cost, the more the revenue has to come in. Or I have to start backing off and stop growing and sort of limit it. So I'm trying to balance that out, that's all. But everything's good right now, everything's good, everything's happy, and I'm trying to make videos every single day except on the weekends from now till Christmas is my goal. But I'm not always able to do that. Like yesterday, I really wanted to go live yesterday, and circumstances, the universe just wasn't going to let me do it. And that will happen. But I'm trying to, for this point right now, I'm trying to go live every day except for the weekends from now through Christmas. That's my goal. And you guys are making it possible, so I thank you for that. John Narcisos contributed $5. He says, hey, have a Coke on me and happy holidays. Thank you, Joe. Happy holidays to you. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap things up. I just want to make sure if there's any other questions I can answer. Is overclocking your CPU the same as turbo boosting? No, a turbo boost happens automatically. There's nothing you do. Overclocking is something you manually go in and you start fiddling around with BIOS settings, taking it out of auto and putting it into manual. No differently than a car, right? You can put a car, can you redline your engine in an automatic transmission? Not if you leave it in drive. Pretty sure you can't do it. But if you have a manual transmission and you leave it in first gear and you want to drive to 80 miles an hour, you probably redline your engine and toast it. So in the same way, turbo mode is an automatic function of the CPU, if it's left alone in the BIOS, that it will crank the frequency or the speed of the chip up when it's being stressed. If you look on the box that came with our Intel chip here, you'll see it's got 2 numbers on it. Oh, you know what? It doesn't have 2 numbers on it. Usually, like if you look at the website for an i9 9900K, it says 3.6. Okay, that's the base clock. But there's often, I'm surprised it's not on the box. That really surprises me. If we look at, let me go to a site that sells an i9 9900K so we can look at the product listing, because it's going to list 2 clock speeds. One is the normal running speed and the other is the turbo speed. And that all happens automatically. Here, I'll just go to Newegg and take a look at what they list. I'm pretty sure Newegg lists both speeds. Yeah, so it's 3.6 gigahertz and then 5 gigahertz turbo. But that doesn't mean all the cores will hit 5 gigahertz. You need a 9900 KS like Sam for that. There's a KF like Frank and a KS like Sam. The KF doesn't have a built-in graphics card. The KS, all the cores can hit 5 gigahertz. Now this is important if you intend to overclock your CPU, because you can, somebody just hit 6.5 gigahertz with liquid nitrogen cooling on a KS CPU. So the dies that they're using, the silicon that they're using is higher end. I just want the KS because it's like having a limited edition of anything, you know. I like the exclusivity of it. I don't care that all the cores run at 5 gigahertz. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to notice it. Does increasing the virtual memory amount improve in array graphics? No. The virtual memory amount is being controlled automatically through Windows. Again, if you leave it in automatic mode, it's going to automatically adjust to what you actually need, to the best performance ability of the computer. If you manually adjust it, you're then limiting yourself to whatever you set it to. We're living in a time now where Windows has evolved to a point where it maintains itself. You don't need to do these old school manipulations of Windows like you used to have to do back in the day. They no longer apply. In most cases, you will cause more harm and slow your computer down and have consequences down the road of things crashing and not working as a result of what you're changing. And then you may have forgot you changed it. And then you're beating your head against the wall trying to figure out why this thing keeps crashing. You end up reinstalling Windows. This is often what happens. And then the problem goes away. And you go, well, that's stupid Windows, I had to reinstall it. No. It's because the reinstall or the new install put the settings back to automatic that you had changed and forgot that you changed. So, no, if you want performance, buy performance. You can't go into your registry and type crashes equals 0 and stop your computer from crashing. If you want performance, buy more RAM. If you want performance, buy a faster drive. If you want performance, buy a faster CPU. There is no tweaks in your registry, and no software you can download, and no button you can push that's going to make any marked difference in the performance of your computer. But it will, quite often, result in causing headaches and annoyances down the road long after those changes you made have been forgotten about. But it's your computer. Feel free to change it however you want. But to me, a computer that crashes is not a fast computer. It's sort of a tortoise versus the hare. I'd rather have a moderately moving tortoise than a hare that's not moving at all or keeps running into the wall. A car that doesn't run is never as fast as any car that does run. Bottom line. If your Corvette won't start, my Prius will beat it every single time. The problem with a leaf blower is accidentally sucking rocks into the blower. I don't know what you're talking about. I've been using a leaf blower for 10 years. And I live in rocks. That's the strangest thing I've ever heard. Listen, if you don't want to use it, don't use it. But that's just crazy to say something like that. I don't know where that's even coming from. Strange. Can a high-performance laptop be built? See, laptops, they have to go into a certain case, you know? And the case size depends on the screen size. And then based on that, you've got your battery. And then all the parts then have to be custom made to fit into all of that. So you can buy a laptop and you can add RAM and storage to it. You can add more RAM and faster storage. But beyond that, and some laptops you can change the graphics card in, or you can change the Wi-Fi. But you can't custom build one. It's not like I'm going to go get a 3D printer, print out a case, you know, make my own battery, design my own power inverter. No, you sort of have to take something that's pre-existing and modify it. You can't create it from scratch. So my advice is, if you want a high-performance laptop, buy one. To try and custom make one is it's just not possible. You can take something that pre-exists and modify it, and that's about as best you can do. But ideally, just buy it good to begin with so you don't have to modify it. And that'll be cheaper, more reliable, and completely warranted for peace of mind, in my opinion. That's a wiser investment of your time and money. But that's just me. Okay, I think I've addressed everything here. How far from your home is your studio? I don't have a studio. The one I'm looking at is about 12 miles away. If that one's going to work, I don't know, but I have to get back to that. I'll wait till after the holidays. Everything's too busy right now. I was just on the road the other day to run some errands yesterday, and the freeway, everybody in the world is in Phoenix. You know, it's super, super crowded. I don't think anybody has a job. Everybody's retired or something. I don't know. They're all out on the roads, and they all want to be somewhere where they're not. They all want to be somewhere else. And it's very frustrating to normally have a 10-minute drive take 20 or 30 minutes. And a lot of traffic accidents. A lot of people are not paying attention. They're texting. I don't know what they're doing. And they're just running into the cars. They're hitting pedestrians. Pedestrians aren't paying attention. They just go, oh, I'm walking across. Driver will see me. The driver's driving. They're going, oh, what's over here? And in Phoenix, a lot of them just keep driving. It's very, very common. They just keep driving. So my preference this time of year, especially right as bad as this year has been, and when you add the rain on top of it and the bad weather, yeah, I'll wait till after all that. I'll wait till the holidays, and I'll go and inspect the studio and see if it's even possible. I don't even know. At this point, it's a potential, but I'm lacking a ton of information that I need to go there and see firsthand. I'll let you know. I'll keep you up to date. John Brady says, thanks for the live stream, Carrie. See you tomorrow. Right on, John. Thanks for joining. Catherine Anna Hauserman there. Catherine just helped. I mean, she's helping people all the time, but someone reached out to me on Facebook Oh, I'm trying to think of his name. It's eluding me at the moment. And he was just contacting me, letting me know how much he appreciated Catherine's help, and Scott Pysick. And Scott said, that Catherine had just helped him, and he really appreciated it, and he was asking my advice on something. And anyway, just making friends everywhere she goes. Catherine's fantastic. If you're looking to build a computer and you're not quite sure what parts to use, you can pay me to build it for you, and we can talk on the phone for about an hour, hour and a half to figure out the right parts. Or you can reach out to Catherine Anna Hauserman, who's here in the chat room. You can reach out to her on Facebook, and for free, she'll talk with you and put together a parts list for you because she enjoys doing it. And if you want to PayPal her a few bucks to say thank you, she doesn't ask for it, she doesn't expect it, but I'm sure she appreciates it. So I love the community we're creating here. I love that you're a part of it. I love that we have people like that willing to share and help. So please be kind to her. Don't be demanding. She doesn't have to help you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks to all my friends in blue for all your help today in the chat. And let me give a shout out to the numerous contributions we've had today. Thomas, John Brady wants to know if using a leaf blower can cause harm to the fans if they spin at a very fast speed. So I made a video where I spin a fan as fast as it'll go until the batteries on the leaf blower died. And I answer this, John. So if you just look at my video channel, or send me an email, I'll send you the link. But you can look at my channel, the video is there. I know there's a lot of videos, but use the search. And just type in, I don't know, leaf blower and see what comes up on my channel. But I prove that. John Narciso, your auto advocate, Thomas, Madi Yoel, Mike Dane, AC1 Network, Louis 67, Oystein, and Mike C. Thomas Robinson asking about teraflop drives. I don't know, Thomas. The technology comes out when it gets invented. I don't think anybody's holding anything back. If they could come out with teraflop drives tomorrow, they would, to get a hand over the competition. They'll be out when they're out. I don't know what else to say. Ronald Hambrick and Gary Tatum, David Kelly Parent, Bruno Antonelli, Mark Roberts, Ronald Hambrick, Jim Innes, Chris Jones, James Cole, Jim Innes again, John Yasuda, Ben Stroud, Brian Rempel, Bill Malway, Nigel Baptiste, Josiah Guernsey, Sharon Idle, Heinrich Bo Anderson, a couple more from Madi, Irving T., Michael Barra, Madi again, Futuristics in Motion, Dan Baggs, Madi again and again. Madi's really being generous today. Thank you, Madi. John Craig and Ronald Hambrick again, Rudiger Luthi and Steve Devine, Red Dragon, Mean GR, Soren Rasmussen, Paul from Mars, Richard Angeline and Robert Fitzpatrick, Ronald Hambrick, Anmar Kamad, Ray Bauman, John Jacoty Jr., Ascended, Robert Spidell, Ronald Hambrick again. Was several from Ronald today. Thank you. Chris's Tech Channel, John Craig again, Jason Baum, John Peck, Ronald Hambrick again, Lee Bigley, Ronald Hambrick again, Mervyn Jordan, Madi again, Michael Collis. If I take Madi and Ronald Hambrick out for lunch, how big of a fight is there going to be over who's going to pay the check? I'll be grabbing it, he'll be grabbing it, they'll be grabbing it. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Michael Collis, Thomas Robinson, Chester Hughes, and the first contribution was from David Griswold today. And thank you all so much for helping me avoid finding sponsors. I love having you guys as my sponsors. It's so much easier. I hope you'll all tune in tomorrow, as I will put the motherboard in the case and the power supply, and we'll do all that tomorrow afternoon. Thanks so much for watching. I will, of course, see you all again very, very soon. And until then, bye for now.